Overwatch? I ain't playing no stinky Overwatch. Get out of here. Although I did install it yesterday to have a look. How we doing there, boys and girls? Good morning. Hi, doggo. Good to see you this morning as well. How we all doing, boys and girls? I've not been streaming for a few days. I've missed you. Have you all been?
Hello there.
Have we all been good? I hope everybody's well. Dog, I'm going to run over your tail. Go get in your bed. Let's go get in your bed. I don't want to run over your tail. Move your butt. There we go. Missing my MMO champion wrap-up of the latest beta patch. Have they data mined it yet? Have they worked out what's going on in it? It kind of threw me having beta just not a thing yesterday. It meant that while I was planning on streaming yesterday, it didn't make a huge amount of sense because I looked at retail and I was like, oh, do I want to play retail? I was like, I don't think I do. I think I'll just work on the spreadsheet, which is what I did actually. For those of you that are keeping an eye on what's going on with the new Dragonflight cheat sheet, I was tinkering and playing with that a little bit yesterday. The hype level for Overwatch seems low. The token price didn't even move. Yeah, Overwatch has not really had much of a, sure, it's free to play, but with disgusting levels of monetization from what I've seen. We're not quite talking Diablo Immortal level disgusting, but pretty bananas level crazy. The work order NPC is being deleted from his location. Yeah, they're clearly doing something. Something. We don't know necessarily what, but they're clearly doing something. First thing this morning, though, I just want to check retail very quickly. Check to see if I've sold anything. That's the fun bit. We'll get that up and running to begin with. I got two plans for today. Very simple plans. Two very simple plans. I want to try and have a little bit of a look, see if we can deep dive and try and find out if there's any significant changes to professions. Because, we get patch notes, but they're not very detailed. So we do have to kind of have a little bit of a look for ourselves. So we'll do that. Second thing I want to do today is I want to put together a bit of a tier list. Yes, it's that time again. It's tier list time. It's time to tier list the professions for Dragonflight. Which ones are going to be, the more lucrative ones? Which ones should people be paying attention to? Which ones are the yays and which ones are the nays? So we'll take a little bit of a look at that. Hopefully with your guys' help later on in the stream. Zanzaful has got himself some beta keys. Oh, that sounds cool. Oh, nice. Okay, so that's going to be a good opportunity. When does he get to give those away? 15 keys, tune in later for today and tomorrow for a chance at them. Oh, cool. Nice one. Today and tomorrow. Good stuff. Good stuff. Zan might pop in later. He's back in normal land times, I think. So if he pops in and says hi, we'll quiz him. Dragonflight tier listing seems tricky. It depends. As long as I don't think it's going to be that tricky. I've already got the list in my head, if I'm honest. I pretty much know what's going to be hot and what's not. But, I've put 20, 30 hours into investigating and looking through it already, so right, let me start the top. Let me see if we sold any pets. Have we sold any pets? Let's rifle through a few realms real fast. See if we sold any pets anywhere. I'm almost turning a profit with Project Pet nowadays. And let's turn the tunes down just a touch. Almost pulling a profit, but I've slowed down the amount that I'm buying, which is probably why. The Dragonflight editions are NA versions, though. So he went to. So that's what it is then. He went over to. He went over to Moakas for a while. He got himself some keys to give away. Cool, good stuff. 70 milliliters of rain in 24 hours? Australia doesn't have that much rain in a year, right? Wow. That sounds like a lot. Severely moist. Reasonably damp. What did we sell over here? We sold 800 gold pet. Well, something's better than nothing. I'm not sure it was quite worth logging in for, though. Planning on going into Dragonflight with 2 accounts, but I'm trying to pre-order Dragonflight on my WoW 2, and it says I need to buy Shadowlands first. Is it easier just to wait for the Dragonflight release and then buy it? I don't know. Is the honest answer. I don't know. I've not looked into it. I've already got Dragonflight on my main 2 accounts. If it's just a bank character, there's not strictly the need for the latest expansion if it's just a bank character that's selling things, but I mean it does help. If you're funding it all with gold anyway, then it's kind of one of those that, well, I mean, unless you need them like really, really quickly, because let's not forget that when Dragonflight launches, after a few days, the price of the token will probably dip pretty aggressively. So I wouldn't necessarily be cashing in all of your gold to buy multiple copies of Dragonflight just yet, unless you really have to. If you're planning on like leveling and jewel boxing and doing all that sort of stuff, then maybe you have to think about it. But oh Lord, can we get something better than a 1500 gold pet, please? Why is everybody only buying my cheap shit? Can't be having this. It's barely worth the login times for 1500 gold. I suppose it's the same as doing a calling, isn't it, nowadays? Not much luck on any of these realms. It's been I think all of the pets are about to expire, to be honest, on this realm, so I'm not surprised there's not any actual sales, but if you don't know, if you don't check, you don't know. Let people flood in, and let my caffeine kick in before we get too deep into it. Yeah, I imagine they'll sort of roll in Shadowlands to the base version of the game, so that there'll be a base version of the game, and then there'll be the latest expansion. I don't necessarily know when or how they'll do that. Maybe they'll do that pre-patch, not sure. Which, for reference, if it's not the week of the 25th of October, I don't know when it will be. Since so far, the early leaks of all of the times and the release dates for things have been absolutely spot on. So I've got no reason to believe that pre-patch won't be 25th of October. What does that make it in terms of 25th of October is the Tuesday. Yeah, 25th, 26th will be pre-patch. I cannot confirm, but I'd bet my house on it. Comment section on your not alt-friendly video was interesting. It was very interesting, and it was exactly what I wanted. A topic like that is always very divisive. It was quite interesting to see just how many people jumped on the assumption that I wanted everything to be account wide, which wasn't really the point I was getting at. Some people sort of missed the point on that video a little bit. I have no expectations of everything, including the recipes, to be account wide. My major gripe was the fact that they over doubled the rep grind, and nobody seemed to have a problem with that, apart from me. So, oh, that's a better pet. We'll take an 8,000 gold pet. Yoink. I have no, yeah, my expectation wasn't to go the other end of the route and just say, I mean, it's, yeah, sure, the titling of the video probably didn't help, but, you know, YouTube does YouTube things. But it was quite clear to me that this was a very deliberate nerf to the rep grind, which I was frustratingly, you know, annoyed with more than anything, because the rep grind felt relatively well paced on the beta as it was. 1,000 reputation per renown felt reasonable. It felt more than what renown used to be. Let's not forget, you used to get a renown for just, you know, pew pew in a world boss. Or it got to a point where some of the catch up would kick in and you had, you know, you were getting a rep grind for you were getting a renown for completing a calling. To have to, you know, that was nowhere near 1,000 reputation. It felt, you know, it felt longer of a grind than it did in Shadowlands, but at the same time, it was something that you could theoretically work on consistently. It wasn't going to be aggressively time gated like Renown was in Shadowlands. So I went by the opinion that, well, at 1,000 reputation per, that actually feels quite well balanced. Obviously, Blizzard didn't agree, and they thought that, no, 1,000 rep per renown is not enough. We need to bump it to 2,500. That's spicy. Pretty spicy. They also made a lot of the weekly stuff become dailies. This is another thing. This is another problem with beta, right? That they started off all of the world quests when they launched beta. This was the same as well in the end part of the alpha, but during the beta they made it so that it started off that all of the world quests were weekly. There was a 7-day timer on all of them. Then they bumped most of them down to 3-day timers, or 4-day timers, maybe. But now they're pushing a lot more of them to be dailies, which is totally not what we need. And what a lot of people don't understand is that this isn't like them adding more content to the game. It's them making you do the same content for half the rewards, or 1/7 of the rewards, over and over again. It's cool for the first 3 weeks because all of the dailies, all of the world quests, they're all new to you at that point. But when you've done it 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row, 6 days in a row, the fun disappears very quickly. Very, very quickly. And I can't honestly understand why quite so many people are defensive of that style of gameplay. Oh, well, people are... There was a lot of comments along the lines of, oh, well, people will run out of things to do. That's not a problem. That's really not a problem. Running out of something to do is not a problem because it means that you have the opportunity to sit back and go, you know what? I've put in effort and I've achieved something. And I now have a few days before it all resets and allows me to go and do something else. If I want to play another game, that should be okay. There doesn't need to be 24 hours of content for you to do every 24 hours, you know? But anyway, I don't particularly want to get too deep into it because I wanted that video to try and garner some feedback, and feedback it did give. Feedback which is quite interesting, of which there was a lot of comments of, oh, this doesn't matter, it only matters for crafters, which equally annoyed me because I'm a crafter, so it matters. So your point's invalid. What? It doesn't matter because I'm a minority player? Well, you can go fuck yourself. That's the honest answer to that one. It's like there was lots of comments like that. Oh, it doesn't matter. Crafters will do it. Well, what if I told you, you know, that... Yeah, what if I told you there was a significant nerf to your favoured piece of content? Then it would matter, right? Just arrogance. But then, you know, the vocal minority often ends up being that way. Same as Torghast and the other systems, it was fun until it became a grind. I think people are oblivious to it. I think people are just totally oblivious to it. That, you know, it's something that is not, you know, they don't think of it as to being a problem until it becomes a problem, and then it's the biggest problem that they've ever seen, and it, you know, the world's on fire. There seems to be a lot of people that don't play the game with any form of foresight into what they might be getting themselves into. And to clarify, this is the time to make a song and dance about stuff, right? They are strictly, you know, if they're going to make a public-ish beta, an alpha, and allow content creators to stream it and make videos about it, then guess what? You're going to get a flood of feedback. And that feedback needs to be listened to more so than anything at this stage, because this is the stage where you can change it. Dragonflight isn't a game yet. Just because you can see it and some people have access to play it doesn't mean it's a thing yet. It's not a finished product. Nobody's paid for it. Some of people have prepaid for it, but the point still stands. It's not a thing yet. Anything that changes at this point is still very subject to change, but now is the time to make a song and dance about it. Because once it goes live, it's too late. Once it's gone live, it's the system's in place, right? It's okay, sure. Now it's a thing. But we'll you know, at that point you can make a song and dance about stuff, but it's going to have to be one hell of a song and dance for anything to happen. This is why I was talking about the work order system. I still don't have great confidence about the work order system. I still strongly believe their best solution is probably to rethink what they're going to do with it. And if it's going to be terrible, just can it. Because we'll talk about this a lot more, I imagine, when we do the tier list. Because the tier list for the professions, the tier list is going to... Professions are... I said this really early. I don't know if I did this much in video form, but, you know, regulars to the stream will have heard me say this a few times. I was saying this really early on when we started seeing the alpha side of things. My opinion was that professions look fun, but they don't look profitable. There will be a month or two of crazy Wild West prices, and, you know, some people will be making just bucket loads of gold. Some people will be struggling to make any. But then it will all normalize a couple of months in. And the point to where it normalizes, it will just disappear. Just like the gold potential from it will completely disappear. Because of the super heavy emphasis on bind on pickup stuff. What's the point in grinding out reputation and getting this end game pattern for what might end up being a 3-week period where people want it? And then for the rest of the expansion, it's dead. Potentially. Unless they build in some system to keep the crafts relevant. More so than ever, I think that there's going to be a really, really short lifespan of gold making opportunities, and even then the gold making opportunities are not going to be Shadowlands level gold making opportunities, not for most people. Legendaries, unfortunately, I think has I think Legendaries has distorted what people view as gold making, and it's not going to be anything like, we're going to go back to a BFA type period in terms of goal making. In BFA, let's look at the end part of BFA, for example. Not when everybody was trying to just, you know, farm flipping billions of gold for long boys, but like the Uncanny Gear, for example. Uncanny Gear was considered like almost the creme de la creme of crafted gear. It was the catch-up gear, basically. But if you made like 2,000-3,000 gold on crafting and selling a piece of Uncanny Gear towards the end of BFA, that was a good day in the office. You'd won. GG, well played. That was 1 hour less of a Tal Dazar farming that you needed to do. That's the level of gold making which we're going back to. We're not going to be having 4, 5, 6, 700, 800,000 gold an hour, like crafting and selling sessions because of legendaries. That stuff's just not going to happen. There's not the potential for that to happen. Back to the days of Expulsum. Oh, Lord. It's like I said, it's not that goal making won't be a thing. It's just there'll be a bit of a reality check for some people. A bit of a reality check. For those that have made an absolute killing in Shadowlands, the hope is that they still have enough of that gold to just coast. If you still have enough of the gold from Shadowlands, just coast. Kind of like what happened in Legion wasn't so bad for this, but Warlords of Draenor was terrible for it. Warlords of Draenor was terrible because people ended Warlords of Draenor if they stuck with it and they were just farming their garrisons for on as many characters as they could. There was people that finished Warlords of Draenor with like 2, 3, 4 million gold. They thought they were done for life. They thought they were good. Right? They thought they would be able to sit on that pile of gold and it would last them for as long as they ever wanted to continue playing World of Warcraft. Then Shadowlands came along. And all of a sudden it wasn't overly difficult for people to start making 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million gold. And all of a sudden that 2 or 3 million gold from back in the WoD days looks like, chump change. Wasn't a goal maker in WoD, but still had 4 years of game time on my account at the end. Yeah, because people who really took advantage of it were able to... welcome in, K-Chat, by the way. Good to see you. People who took advantage of it to begin with, they were able to do it at a time as well where the token prices weren't ridiculous. People who weren't churning garrisons were still poor as hell. And people were still buying tokens because the whole token thing was relatively fresh and new. Token didn't do silly things until Legion, really. Welcome, brother. Love the series you're doing so far on the Dragonflight Professions for YouTube. Thank you. There's a Blacksmith one coming. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. It's pre-recorded, it's uploaded, it's ready. I just need to press the publish button on it. I just don't want to publish like 3 of those types of videos in a row unless I can get away with it. I want to squeeze in a slightly more easy to consume video, a slightly less targeted video in between, which is maybe why we're doing a tier list today, because who doesn't love a good tier list, right? Those I batch produced a bunch of them on Tuesday. As you'll notice, I'm wearing the same thing in all of them. That's because I recorded them practically one after each other on Tuesday. So I may not have been streaming the last couple of days, but I've still been busy for you guys. So spread out the profession videos. Make sure you get your WoW economy mention every week. That's all right. I just PayPal Samadan $20. He's a goblin. He can be bought. Easy job. Busy like a bee. Yeah, a little bit. I don't have too much to do or say about retail today, which is, in a way, nice. What's the token price doing on retail? Has Overwatch made any effect whatsoever to the token price? Not a blip. It's interesting, actually. The token price is almost normalized. It's relatively steady at the moment, all things considered. We've had a Wrath of the Lich King launch. We've had Overwatch come out. The token price has not really budged. Goes to show, people are not really that keen on spending 350,000 gold for 30 days of game time or 13 euros. People are just really not that keen to spend that kind of gold knowing full well that in less than 2 months' time, it'll probably dip. It'll probably dip to at least 250, if not 200. The start of an expansion is a very heavy time for token sales. Feel it only goes down when a new raid tier comes out. Well, the start of the expansion's the big catalyst for dumping the price on this thing. And people have worked that out by this point, because it's happened every expansion religiously. You look at the back data for it. There's some websites out there that track it. I can't remember one off the top of my head, but we've looked at the data 20 times. But yeah, clearly people are not willing to pay. My suspicions was that it would hit 400k before we got into Dragonflight. But the interesting thing about this is in the EU, nearly to the gold, the token price has gone up 10,000 gold a month. That's an average across the life of the expansion. 10,000 gold a month, nearly exactly, is what the token price has gone up over the span. Obviously, it's gone up and it's dipped and it's gone up, and it's not a flat line all the way. But if you take the starting price, which was about 160k, I think. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but it was about 160k was when Shadowlands launched and everybody bought their tokens to buy those legendaries in the first couple of weeks. I think it dipped down to about 160k. Now we're at 350 2 years later. So it's roughly 10,000 gold a month it's gone up. The Diablo 4 pre-order in December will push the price back up again. Maybe if people can if people can make a bunch of gold quickly at the start, then maybe. There was rumors that there was going to be a Diablo 4 beta very soon. I don't know if that was public or not. I may or may not have got an email. I don't think I did get an email. Maybe I just heard it via Twitter. I don't know. What's the impact to the token price? Is it this high because nobody's buying it? It's a supply and demand thing. Supply and demand thing, like most things. The more people buying tokens with real money, if there's it's okay, it's not even so simple as that. If there is a greater number of people buying tokens with real money than there are people that want to exchange their gold for game time, then the price goes down. Whereas the reason the price steadily increases right now is because everybody feels it essential to buy gold at the start of an expansion when everything's shiny and everything's new. Then as the expansion goes on, slowly but surely, there's less and less reasons for people to buy tokens with real money. Yet there's a continued reason for people to trade their gold for game time. That sort of mentality doesn't disappear. What's this? Token price extended history. Should we have a little look at this one? Can you short the token? No. So let's... I don't want to discombobulate anything. Just show me numbers. Let's get rid of all of the realms we don't care about. No, hang on. Dates. Do dates. How far back can we go? It's 2018, as far back as we can go. Surely we can go back further than that. Okay, we can go back as far as 2015, apparently. I can't believe that this website actually has data for that far back. Oh, maybe it does. Okay. So you can see what tends to happen as time goes on. What happened here? 60, 70,000 gold. When was this? Midway through 2016. Then it goes up, it goes up, it goes up, it goes up, it goes up. Oh, look, and an expansion launch, and it goes down. And then it goes up, and it goes up, and it goes up, it goes up. And then an expansion launch, and it goes down. And then I think if we're 2020, late 2020, this was the dip. 190 US, sorry, 190 EU, 150 US. It dipped when Dragonflight launched to 160 EU and 112 NA. Christ, you guys had cheap tokens. And since then, this is pretty much Shadowlands. Can we just shave this bit? Yeah, this is pretty much Shadowlands, right? So late 2020, Dragonflight launches, slowly rises throughout 2021. It dips a bit when you have a major patch. Goes back up again, dips again when you have another major patch, goes up and down. Don't quite know what was happening here. Was this maybe, I don't know what was going on here, but either way, you can see that from modest start to where we are now, it's pretty steady increase. But right, anyway, we don't need to talk about the token too much. We don't need to talk about the token too much. I can see you're giving away some WoW tokens. If they're sat in my bags, I can't really give them away, unfortunately. These are just my spares. If my bank character has too much gold, I just buy some tokens. Right, let's jump onto the beta, though. I want to take a little bit of a look at the beta. We don't need any of this retail business. Season 4 could have been the reason for the dip. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think Season 4 had much of a knock-on effect on the token value, though. Not anywhere near as much. Where's my dashboard gone? Podge 19 with the Prime. Sorry, I think I might have missed that one. My apologies. Welcome in. Thank you. Any work order updates? Not to my knowledge. I did have a little zip about and have a little bit of a look at things yesterday. Just briefly when the servers came back up. But it doesn't look like there's any work order information to share, unfortunately. The previous NPC has just vanished. Poof, disappeared. The theory seems to be that they're going to bed work orders into the crafting tables, which is a sneaky way for them to justify the crafting tables, which is almost sensible, though, annoyingly. Almost sensible in terms of the fact that, if you want a piece of crafted gear that is made by a tailor, you go to the tailor's workbench and you hopefully will find it. But see, the previous fella used to stand here. He was chilling here, and now he's not. He's ran away. Rabul is still selling me 15 knowledge points for 100 artisans metal, and will continue to sell me 15 knowledge points for ever increasing amount of artisans metal, depending on how high I push my reputation with the Artisans Consortium. At one point, I'll have to go through these and check that I've got all of these jotted down in my cheat sheet. I might have to start trying to fill gaps in the cheat sheet soon. Does it say about the crafting orders here? You can order anything the crafters on these isles can make, even if it's normally something only crafters can get their hands on. That's right, our new artisan to mail service. You can be the very first soul to own a newly crafted item. We're consistently expanding, so if there's older items we don't serve right now, check back in a few months. This flavor text has been in the game since day one. Yeah, this is all exactly the same as what it was before. They've reset my UI again, which is annoying. I might have to reset my UI before we go too far, do anything too engaging. How do you constantly see Blizzard's intentions when subtle, not so subtle changes are made? I don't know. I think I've played the game too long. It's the honest answer. I think I've just played the game too long. Plus, I have a very strong past history in sales and marketing, so I kind of see what's going on a lot of the times. But I don't think I do see their intentions. I think, to be honest, I don't think even Blizzard understand their own intentions half the time. This is the problem. That I think that you know, they have maybe a plan, brief plan up on a wall, but when it comes to actually implementing it, sometimes I do wonder. There is, interestingly, on the map now, well, you can see it on the mini-map, there is this icon here, which is an icon of a big hammer thing, which you would assume means that this will be the platform for the work orders. But then again, they have taken it down, so there's nothing here. So I'm not quite sure what this little icon means. But it's interesting that there's an icon there all the same. Somebody pointed out that these fellas have had a bit of an overhaul. Maybe that there's more rewards to be had by these guys now that I hadn't previously tracked. Essence of Awakening. You may purchase Essence of Awakening from Quartermaster Hursang to allow you to see and interact with the Maruk ancestors. Okay. Essence of Awakening sounds like a alchemy thing. Crafter's Knowledge 1. Receive Centaur Crafter's Knowledge from Quartermaster. What's that then? Is that going to unlock a bunch of recipes? What's this going to be? Let's go find this dude. Let's go find this Quartermaster. I'm intrigued. Oh, the game runs like a dog. Hang on. Maybe we just need to turn some settings down. Do you feel the new crafting system will impact goal making? Yes, heavily. The simple answer to that one is that when you let the buyer choose how much they pay for something, you're not going to make a lot off them. The only time you're ever going to make any gold off them is if they really want something and they really want something quick and there's nobody else to provide it to them. That's a limitation that very, very, very rarely happens in World of Warcraft. So I still hold true my opinion that I had from the word go with Dragonflight Professions, is that they look fun to play with. They don't look very profitable. There'll be a period in time where you'll be able to make silly money. But that period of time will be very short and it'll be reserved only for those that really know what they're doing. Most people just dabbling probably won't have much luck with it at all. which is a bit of a shame in my opinion. But that's just how the system works. The system has layers upon layers deliberately for that reason. Shadowlands had no layers, meaning it was very simple for anybody to get involved with. And so lots of people did. And then cancel scans became a thing. So your barrier to entry is higher for those that know what they're doing, meaning that some people will make a sizable chunk of change, no doubt. But the flip side of that is that most people probably won't. And that's not even a gatekeeping thing. That's strictly the design of the system. Where is this quartermaster fella? I think he's in here, isn't he? Here we go. So you don't seemingly sell anything. Maybe straight up doesn't show anything until you actually have unlocked the thing. So the easy answer is I don't know what this does. Ooh. Will early gold making be gathering at the start? It always is. Always is. Every single expansion, you'll make a mint. You'll make loads of gold gathering at the start. Loads of gold to be had by gathering. Most expansions play out the same. That the first month or two is when you should really be farming. Even if you don't like farming, you should be farming just because it's such easy money. But there does come a point to where there'll be so many people gathering that there'll be so many people gathering that it'll push the price down on stuff. And, it depends where your threshold is, where your limit is. People are farming for like 6k an hour right now in Shadowlands. If I'd have told you at the start of Shadowlands you could farm for 6k an hour, people would have laughed in your face. I'm not farming for 6k an hour. But that's because they could consistently make 20, 30, 40, 50,000 an hour. So it's all about where your personal threshold is. Mr. GM mentioned that a vendor showed more to sell when he reached certain renown levels. That's probably the way that this is going to work. It probably isn't even going to show the things he sells until you've unlocked the renown with him. Which, with the dramatic increase in reputation requirements, flat out makes it such that it's not worth my time to test this. Really not worth my time to test this. I'm not grinding rep on a beta arbitrarily. But yeah, Renown 14 is where it seems to give you Crafter's Knowledge 1, whatever that means. Presumably, considering it said number 1, there might be number 2 and number 3 at some point. Crafter's Knowledge 2, all the way at Renown 24. I wonder what that's going to be. Check Discord. Anyone know what the blacksmith plans are here at Renown 8? I do not see blacksmith plans. Oh, people are seeing complete. Okay, yeah, I know why. It's because this character of mine's balked. Blizzard did state this. of that they were not retroactively changing the renown resources on. If I make a new character, they're going to be different to what I see on this character. This is unfortunately beta. No. Yeah, this is unfortunately beta problems. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. It means this character's pretty much dead. It's specific to professions. If you pick up blacksmithing, I bet it'll say it. Yeah, it could just be crafter's knowledge because I've got 2 gathering professions on this toon. Yeah, okay. Right, well I want to go on a little hunt for any changes to the professions. I started doing this a little bit last night. I'm using my cheat sheet to my advantage here. Using my cheat sheet to my advantage to try and take a little bit of a look and see if I can spot anything that's changes. Oh! I made a few changes to the Dragonflight cheat sheet yesterday. I have now added TSM API support to it. Now, obviously, this doesn't make a blind bit of difference yet because the items are not in the game. This is just provisional, so that when they are, then it's there and it works. I've also added this thing, which I think is quite cool. I don't know if people all like this or not. If you do, this is just a data dump to be fair, but this is a. Hang on, let me try and make it so it fits on the screen a bit nicer. A material demand tracker. This is something I've been curious about for a while, but I've not easily been able to do previously. But now that we have the TSM API back again, we can pull in huge amounts of data to a spreadsheet. So what I've done is I've basically put every single farmable material in the game in a spreadsheet. Some 800 or so materials. There's a few that are a bit weird, but some 800 or so odd materials. Pulled in all of the data for them, and then we can do things like rank them. I added a few columns at the end, a few little bits of maths to the end here. So trend is an indication to whether an item is going up or down in value and by how much and how quickly. So this trend number is calculated by the quantity sold per day. Sorry, the trend is it's not actually that at all. The trend is the average sale price comparative to the region market price. So that gives you an indication that, well, the average sale price is 16 gold, but the current region market price is only 9 gold, indicating that that's going down quite quick. It's not perfect because you're comparing sale prices against listing prices. I know it's not perfect. I know Woo is going to disagree with me on this one. I can pull in historical data. I can do the historical region market price, but this is just a quick indication. It's not particularly accurate, but it's a thing none the same. To give you so as you can see, like most Shadowlands materials right now are dipping in value like aggressively quickly. People are willing to pay less and less and less every day, and the market price for these things is going down and down and down. Average sale price is almost always lower than DB region. Yeah, I probably will tweak it and change it to pull in the historical region prices for things and do a comparison there, but I didn't want to mess about with too much. So this is a bit of a hack job, I appreciate, but it's just an indicator. It's an indicator of what's going on. More importantly, by how much. The daily demand is an interesting one, though. This is another one that is just quite simply, well, how many are sold per day and what's their average sale price? Giving you an indication to what is the turnover of this material region-wide. That's all we really want to know here. And the items that have a greater turnover are, in theory, in more demand. And it starts to make sense when you order it like this, right? Because you've got Widow Bloom, Rising Glory, anything, materials that go into potions that are on use, single-use consumables that people are still churning through, is obviously going to create a huge amount of demand. Over 10 million gold a day of sales on Widow Bloom, even this late in the expansion. So if you're out farming Widow Bloom, that's a really good indicator to you that you're going to be able to sell your stock pretty damn fast. And it also means that with a demand that high, you may not necessarily need to be listing it at the cheapest price. And you can start to see a few other things. There's a few surprise ones that pop in here. Maybe this is just because of some slightly weird and wacky data from TSM, but things like the spine fin piranha is still, in theory, seeing 2.5 million gold of turnover every day, every single day. People out there fishing probably, the question becomes, this obviously doesn't answer that, well, how much of it can you get and how quickly can you get it? But it's an indicator of what the market wants. What is the market consuming? And then Spirit of Harmony was an interesting to me. Mainly because I think it just, for some reason, holds a very high price still. 172 gold is the average sale price on Spirit of Harmony. And 7,500 seem to be selling a day still, which is wild. Over 1 million gold of turnover a day to be had from Spirit of Harmony. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to farm up all of this yourself. You're probably not even going to get a fraction of this amount. But I tried to give you a bit of an indication, an hourly demand, right? If you've got a whole stack of this material, how long is it, how much of it do you reckon you would be able to, sell of it? If you camp the auction house for an hour, how much do you reckon of this stuff you might be able to sell? Now, it's only rough, because some hours of the day will be more lucrative than others. But with the commodity market, with the region-wide auction house, there does become some logic in just camping the auction house to sell your stuff. But this tries to give you an indication of, well, if you have a bunch of this material, how much of it do you expect to be able to sell in any given time frame? It's just one of the things we can now easily do. The fact that we can pull in huge amounts of data from TSM into a spreadsheet. This was a number that I liked, though. It might not be too easy to see on stream here, but just materials alone. So this isn't, any crafted goods. This isn't intermediate items like Shadowgast ingots. This is purely farmable materials. There's still 78 million gold a day in sales just of materials, which is pretty ridiculous when you think about it. And that's just materials. That's not, that's not your legendaries, that's not your actual potions or flasks, or it's just the materials that go into making them. Crafters potentially are spending somewhere in the region of 80 million gold a day to buy things to then sell. Missives are only used in legendaries. I think so, as of right now. Oh, no, big fat stinky lie. You can use missives on crafted gear, on most crafted gear. Do you know how you're going to release the profession cheat sheet yet, or will it be broken up into free portions and other portions where subs and or patrons are required? You definitely deserve to be compensated for this work. I've not decided. I don't know. Let's see what it turns into. At the moment, it doesn't really do a lot, so it's just like a little bit of information. But it's, This is based on TSM's data. But yeah, there's some interesting materials in the top 50. You see even things like monolite ore still showing its face, right? Average sale price of nearly 10 gold a piece on monolite ore. 65,000 monolite ore a day sells. So there's still, you know, if you farmed up a bunch of monolite ore, you could probably still sell 20, 30,000 gold monolite ore in an hour. Now, that doesn't mean you can farm it up that quickly, but if you've bought a bunch or you stumble across a bunch in a guild bank or something, you could expect to make, you know, a sizable chunk of change off that. Fel iron ore, cobalt ore. It does a really good job of highlighting all of those past expansion materials that you consistently see YouTube videos about. This one surprised me. Tolvir hieroglyphics. I think it's because the average sell price is wackadoodle high. This actually makes the Tolvir hieroglyphic at over 3,000 average sale price one of the most expensive materials in the game to this day. Even 3 times more expensive than a Progenitor Essentia right now. Madness. Volatile fire. Black trillium ore. You know, the old ones that you expect to see, like wild vine. How many videos are there about arcane crystals, Corum ore? Goes to show all of those videos on YouTube that are like, go farm Corum ore, you'll make 20 million gold a day. It's not strictly true, but there is clearly still some demand for these materials because nearly 1,000 Corium ore a day sells. Now it's a region-wide auction house. And it sells for an average price of 300 gold each. It may not necessarily be worth your time to be selling it, but this is good information to have when it comes to like flipping these materials. I swear the amount of gold you could make flipping materials on the region-wide auction house now is bonkers. Actually mental case. With a little bit of, you know, a little bit of data to back up your decisions, you could be doing ludicrous numbers. Total sold per day number is actually a lot less than I thought it would be. I bet it's 10 times more at peak times. Some of the numbers, I do question some of the numbers, yeah. I do question some of the numbers. And it's weird, right? Because there's things like... But let's not forget, people buy stuff for completely different reasons. Callous hide, 5 million callous hide a day. It's like, why are people buying 5 million callous hide a day? And I think most people are buying this callous hide to just delete it. Like, I genuinely think it's 1 silver piece and people are buying it to delete it. There's certainly not a need for that amount of it. There clearly isn't. I don't know why people would be buying it. There's a reason why it's 1 silver. But yet, there's still 5 million of it being sold every day. Should make a YouTube video, go farm the shit, you'll make a bazillion gold an hour, and then check how the numbers change. It's a bit mean though, isn't it? Can confirm last week I resold 802,000 items for a 600k profit. There you go. There you go. 2 tokens in a week just by flipping materials. Golden Lotus still in the top 100. Golden Lotus 4,000 sold a day. Average sale price of 40 gold a piece. You could you can start to understand why those videos exist. Primal Air. In the top 100, you're finding all of the regular YouTube clickbait videos. Fell Slate is in here. Ghost Iron Ore, Volatile Waters, Golden Lotus, Primal Waters, White Trillium Ore, Primal Air. You know, they're all here. All here. Volatile Life. Eternium Ore. Sulfuron Ingots. Korthite Crystals. What else we got in here? Anchor Weeds, still, surprisingly. Fel Iron Bars. So not even just the ore itself. People have smelted it and then turned it into bars. There's a demand for that still. And then Eternal Fire, just 101st. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos on a lot of these commodities. It makes sense. Yeah, this is it. The problem is with those videos is they put forward the information in a way that I don't really think is useful. I saw a video. I've got to be careful here because generally speaking, the guy that does these videos is certainly not the worst for it by any stretch of the imagination. So I won't name names here, but somebody did a video a few days ago, a week ago maybe, I'm not quite sure. And they were talking about some materials and they claimed that you could make 12,000 gold an hour farming this material, which by today's standards is like, you know, middle of the run. But if you were to take, you know, his very, very small amount of farming data and then look at its actual potential demand, you'd realize that there's maybe only 15,000 gold a day of that material that sells. So it was down, you know, it was a material that was right down here, you know, 15,000 gold a day. You know, you're just not going to sell much of it. Farming it is just because it has a high ticket price doesn't mean a lot. And this is the problem, right? You know, you take one snippet, one small 10-minute farm and extrapolate it out to all of a sudden you can make all of this gold. Well, you've not made any gold until you sell it. This is more focused on how much of it could you potentially sell, which is the side of the bit of the information that I tend to find is missing from almost all of those videos. Where's this information? This is pulled straight from TSM. This is using the TSM API. And welcome in, Sham. Welcome. Yeah, I'm not a big farmer myself, but I thought this sort of information could be maybe at least somewhat useful to some people. Should we see what is the most sold item per day? I think some of us could probably guess quite accurately here, but the most sold item per day. Let's sort the range. Sort by sold per day, highest to lowest. The most sold item per day, surprise, surprise to nobody, Callous Hide. Desolate Leather shortly following it at 2,500. Can you guess? 2.5 million, sorry. With a very, very stable price, by the way. Average sale price nearly exactly that of whatever the market price is, because it's being bought for the purpose of vendor shuffling. Shortly followed by Death Blossom, at over 1.2 million Death Blossoms sold in the EU a day. Shrouded Cloth not far behind. This is just, you know, shuffle bait at this point. Shuffle bait and alchemy still. Rising Glory, Widow Bloom, Nightshade. Heavy Callous Hide is still selling 500,000 a day. Do we reckon that's going into legendaries? What do we think people are doing with that? A little bit more niche, but an equivalent for pets would be good too. An equivalent for pets could easily be knocked out. I mean, I could probably do that in about 5 minutes flat. Should we have a go? Duplicate sheet. We will call this pet demand tracker. Oh, no. If we go Let's just delete. Hang on, hang on. Hang on, there's a better way to do this. If we go like this, then we go like this, then we go delete. Let me do some shenanigans real quick. Where's Wowhead? Wowhead database. Whoa. Go back. What is that website about? Database. Is pets even a thing in their database? Hunter pets, battle pets. Filters. Companion pet. Cageable. Is cageable a thing? Cageable's a thing. Cageable, yes. Oh, hang on. This isn't going to show me what I want it to show me. Maybe this might not be quite so quick and easy as I thought. Okay, we do it this way. Companion items. Companion items. How many is in this list? 1,012. That sounds about right. There's a few more in there that we don't need. Oh, have you just got a sheet of all of the... Does it have the item... Oh, it's got the pet IDs in it as well. They're the pet IDs, though. Does TSM pull in... I wonder if TSM actually pulls in these item IDs specifically. Okay, maybe it's not so much of a 5-minute job that I'm willing to do on stream. Because I don't actually think the TSM API pulls in exactly that data by default. Unless it's some of the... Oh, maybe it does. Are these some of these the pets? They probably are, you know. TSM does log them, but the API does them a different way, I think. Yeah, I think I might have to tweak the code to pull in. Let me check for, like, what have we got here? 50, green wing macaw. 50, yeah, 50 is not even on my list. So I think it does pets in a different way. They start with P instead of I in the app data file, at least. They did say that their API does support the pets in some way, shape, or form. I probably just need to work out how and why. Maybe we'll save that fun for another day. We'll save that fun for another day. But in theory, it's possible. In theory, it's possible. Delete this now. Do this another day. Why on earth is there still this much Pandaria herbs on the auction house? People farm them. I don't know. This is also quite a nice little list to have, actually, for no other reason than you can just search for something. You know, you can control F anything you want. Volatile fire. Where's volatile fire on the list? Oh, boom, look, it's here. It's miles down. 300,000 gold of volatile fire sells a day. It says the invite is invalid. It's not. It's definitely the invite link. Volatile air. Straight to it on the list. Boom, there's your info. Surprisingly close to volatile fire in demand, actually. Anyway, that was my little spreadsheet play around with yesterday. I didn't get to do much else because without the beta, it was a bit difficult to do much more. What I did do yesterday, though, is I tested Darkmoon cards again. I crafted another 100 packs of Darkmoon cards to see if there was any changes. Nope. Aces are still practically non-existent. Ah, another tier 1 sub. Thank you very much, my man. Why are the alerts not going off? Maybe the alerts are not going off because they're muted in OBS. Alright, there we go. Good data to have quick access to. Well, that was my thought. Don't need to be logged into the game. Don't need to be near an auction house. Please hold. Couldn't have the adverts cutting in when trying to learn from you. Thank you, appreciate it. Anyway, should we jump into the beta and should we start this tier list? I think it's nearly tier list time, isn't it? I think I might need quick and easy access to some of the professions to work this out. So luckily, I've got all of my crafting characters here that we can quickly jump in and to look at things briefly. I think we could probably do with turning the tunes off, as the chances are I will harvest this footage for everything it's worth, because clearly if we're doing a tier list it's going to end up on YouTube. Let's check that we've got, there we go, we can have some in-game tunes if nothing else. Right, so where's it gone? Professional streamer mode activated. Tier list time. I suppose we need to set a few ground rules here, don't we? We need a few ground rules. How are we going to qualify professions? Are we going to qualify them on whether I think they're more fun or not, or whether they're for the purpose of making more gold? You got to pick one of the two. I guess most people are going to care more than anything else about which of the professions is going to make them more gold, right? That makes a profitable. See, you ask a bunch of goblins what they want, and it's clear that they want more gold. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we'll categorize these based then on how much gold I suspect you'll be able to make from them. Fun is subjective, gold is not. Very true, very true. So, I guess then, should we just work our way down the list? Should we start at the top and work our way down? Alchemy. Alchemy is a good one to start with, you know, because alchemy is a bit interesting. These are the old icons as well, actually. I should probably update to the new icons. Alchemy is a fun one because it's going to be region-wide. Everything, absolutely everything that you're going to be crafting and selling for the purpose of alchemy is potentially going on the region-wide auction house. So this gives it the ability to quite easily be A tier for some. It could be S tier for some, because you've got ridiculous potential with this. The potential is super duper mega high. The problem is that not that many people are going to qualify for that level of gold, right? The people that are going to make the silly gold off alchemy are going to be the ones that are first to market with the best tier quality of stuff. So the hardcore alchemists out there have a good chance to make a lot of gold. I think on that premise, it puts it A. Alchemy is going to be really good. There's never an expansion, ever in the history of ever, where alchemy in the first patch of an expansion hasn't printed people millions of gold. If we look ever so quickly in-game, now I don't want to use in-game footage for this too much, but looking at, oh my god, the UI is still hella busted. If we look at what we're making as an alchemist, we are super duper heavy focused on potions, cauldrons, and vials, instead of flasks this time around. There is a couple of trinkets. There's the alchemy stone trinkets, but these are, you know, under normal circumstances, they're alright. But they're never anything super special. They're probably not going to have too much life to them. They tend to get replaced very quickly. Alchemy also has a couple of the finishing reagents. Finishing reagents are a new thing for Dragonflight. Finishing reagents are something that the serious crafters are going to look at using, because they do offer some shiny bonuses. So there might be a steady demand for an alchemist to be crafting and selling these. Increases the bonus skill from inspiration by 15%. Increases inspiration by 30 and multicraft by 27. These finishing reagents are going to be, I'm not going to say super duper mega profitable, but they will for sure be in demand because everybody is going to be looking at using some of these, especially if they're trying to min-max their professions in the first place, which I think for the very first one, and of course it's backed up with transmutes like it always is. I think alchemy's got to be A tier, right? Alchemy's got to be A tier. It's got a relatively interesting path to success because you learn everything in alchemy through the discovery system, which is some people will love, some people will hate. It depends on if you get lucky or not. The discovery system is not, it's a discovery system. You know, you press a button and randomly it will pull a recipe out for you. If you get lucky and you get a really good potion really quickly that you can start working on and crafting and improving the quality of, you win big. But realistically, across the board, I think alchemy's got to be A. Alchemy's got to be A, I reckon. Look what's next. I don't think we need to talk too much about archaeology, do we? Really, considering it doesn't exist. It's on my list because technically it's still a profession, but it's not really, is it? It's not really. Okay. We might need a swamp past here. Dead profession. Yeah, maybe. D for dead. D for dead profession. I think that makes a lot of sense. Blacksmithing. Who's had access to the beta to have a little bit of a look at blacksmithing? I'm considering blacksmithing to be reasonable. Reasonable, but it's not S tier. I think blacksmithing is going to be very, very good for one of a couple of reasons. In a gold rush, you should probably be selling shovels. And that's exactly what blacksmith does. Blacksmith holds the recipes to a lot of profession tools. A lot of profession tools. So for every single crafter out there that wants to be, a serious crafter and wants to make a lot of gold, one of the very first things they're going to look at doing is getting as good of a profession tool as they possibly can. You can only have one profession tool and you can have 2 profession accessories. Everybody is going to want a good profession tool. You can have a huge amount of stats and skill points on these things. Blacksmiths make most of them. Now, they're locked behind reputations, but this is not a tier list based on the difficulty of the profession. This is just a tier list on the potential profit that can be made. And I think blacksmithing, dare I say, it's S tier. In my opinion, blacksmithing is going to be monstrous. Because not only is it selling all of the tools that everybody needs to make for all of the other crafters to do their job, properly, it's also backed up by the fact that it still supplies every plate wearer with all of their gear, and there's some good gear in that as well. and weapons. Let's not forget, this time round, blacksmiths actually make weapons. Yes, blacksmiths making weapons is going to be key. Everybody wants the biggest and best weapon they can possibly get their hands on. And it's, in many cases, the biggest significant factor in increasing your DPS. And people do love big numbers. And if they can get their hands on a crafted weapon, and more importantly, if they can choose to craft themselves a mythic quality weapon, I think people are going to want to do it. So, yeah, I tend to think that those three things combined is really going to push blacksmithing far ahead. Now, there's the obvious thing that at the beginning, you're going to have to specialize in one direction or the other. But the reality is, whichever direction you spec into, if you spec into crafting weapons, if you spec into crafting armor, or you go the route of specking into and selling everybody tools, you've got good choice, and every choice is a good choice. It's going to be very, very hard to go wrong, I think, with blacksmithing, personally. I'd be interested, obviously, to hear your people's opinions on this. BFA was OP for blacksmithing because of weapons. Like I said, everybody given the choice would love to have a shiny new higher item level, more damage dealing, more healing, more, a bigger and better weapon is better all the time, right? And that's where blacksmiths are going to come in key. Next on our list then, we have cooking. I'm in two minds about cooking, because you could argue cooking is in a similar position to alchemy in terms of the fact it provides you food buffs. But it's still a secondary profession. There's no spec trees. There's not really too much room for... In a world where everything has progressed, we've got quality options on everything. Let me put it this way. Under normal circumstances, I think cooking would be a B. But I think it gets dropped down to a C for me simply because everything else has moved on, and cooking really hasn't. Cooking, there's no quality with any of the cooking materials or the crafts. You're not worried too much about. It's just not gone forward the same as everything else has gone forward. In its own right, it probably stands on its own 2 feet. Quite nicely. Cooking in Dragonflight is going to be better than cooking in Shadowlands. But it's still not going to be super lucrative, I don't think. Everybody has access to it. Most of the stuff is going on the region-wide auction house. There's not much room there for actual profit. Now, of course, not everybody wants to be cooking all of their own food, and there is still a big demand for it. But I'm not sure. I don't think they've done enough with cooking in Dragonflight to really, push it forward. Yeah, it's a C. Yeah, it's C. It's not going to be very good, I don't think. I don't think it's going to be very good. We'll move on quickly because it's only a secondary profession. Enchanting. Who's had a chance to look at enchanting? I know I've not focused on enchanting too much, but enchanting does have a couple of interesting spec paths you can push into it. Enchanting at face value is really boring, but this isn't necessarily a list of what's going to be boring and what's not going to be boring. This is a list of how much gold you'll be able to make. I mostly check disenchanting. See, this is a thing, right? There's a lot more disenchanting options. I think the passive gold that you'll be able to make with enchanting is quite good. But I don't think it's going to put it in the same league as these two. Enchanting is E? No, I don't think it's not going to be fun and interesting, but there's definitely the option for making a lot of gold. People enchant their stuff heavily in the first patch of an expansion. There's lots of gold to be had, but I just don't think it's going to be as much as these. I think we've got our first candidate for B, A is for alchemy, C is for cooking, D is for dead, enchanting is E. Oh, I see. I did misread that. I think we've got our first candidate for a B tier profession, there's no and I think this is mainly because you've got quality to contend with for the herbs, right? For alchemy, but there's no quality on the materials for enchanting, meaning that most people's crafting costs are going to be very, very, very similar, which will shave the margin potential off that. I don't think you're going to have as much fun trying to make gold with enchanting. There's a slight problem that crystals might be rarest, you know, rarest rocking horse doo-doo. Simply because there's no epics to disenchant at the beginning of the expansion. But there are ways you can alleviate that if you spec correctly. I still don't think it pushes it up though, even with these sorts of things. I think I'm going to put enchanting as a B tier profession, which is actually interesting. We've got ourselves quite a clever spread of choices here already. Yeah, I think if enchanting was more lucrative, I think if it had more to offer other than just enchants, which unfortunately it really doesn't. It doesn't do anything else apart from what it says on the tin, really. It will be a good second profession to have alongside something that's your main focus, I reckon. That's my thoughts on enchanting anyway. Let's move on. Engineering. Engineering. Oh boy, engineering. Engineering's a difficult one for the fact that there's a fair few things that I reckon that people are going to want from engineering, but it's still very heavily focused in its utility. Still very heavily going to be, you know, it makes bombs and it's PvP orientated, and it's from a gold making perspective, which is where we got to focus this on. From actually purely making gold, I don't think you're going to make a lot of gold with engineering. It will be good if you know that it does the things you want it to do. And that is, let's be honest, that is kind of the point of engineering. But I can't see engineering being anything more than C, realistically. It's higher than cooking, though. It's higher than cooking. Well, let's look at it based on this, though. It's higher than cooking. It's definitely higher than cooking. But I don't think it's better than enchanting. And I can't, in good faith, put engineering in the same tier as enchanting. Even if I think enchanting is boring, its potential to make gold is good. It's got to go C. It's got to go high C. It's going to be... These top spots are going to be competitive because there's lots of good ones coming. So I don't think it's fair to put it any higher than that, unfortunately. There's not too much that engineering has. Oh, I need to sanity check this. While I'm thinking about it, let me log on to my engineer and sanity check this, because there is... I've even S tier gold is the name of my character for engineering. Let me just double check this, because I can't think of any reason for it to go above. I can't think of why I'd push it into B tier, but I don't want to do it the injustice of not being thorough. Let's ever so quickly check everything. Parts, you're not going to make a huge amount of gold from parts. It doesn't make a mount. Now, you see, if it made a mount, if engineers made a mount, it'd be a different story, but they don't. They have the battle res. They have utility. This is the thing. They have utility, but utility doesn't necessarily mean lots of gold. Goggles are a thing, but goggles are a thing. You have to be an engineer to use the goggles in the first place, which is always puts them one step behind other things, just purely the fact that you have to be an engineer to use them. Which means that if you are an engineer, then you could in theory craft them and make them yourselves, which means you're not going to be selling them to make any gold from, which is, you know, what we're looking at here. It makes a couple of guns, like it usually does. Great for hunters. But there's also a bow that is going to compete with this. Yeah, I can't see there being so much. Wormhole, for example, is nerfed and is nowhere near as needed. And falls into the same category again that you need to be an engineer to use it. They do make a lot of profession equipment though. They do make a lot of profession equipment. That is the only justification for maybe putting it up to B, you know. I think that might be the only justification for putting it up to B. That they make a lot of profession equipment. And that, you know, that was the argument I made for blacksmithing. That blacksmiths make a lot of I think purely because of the profession equipment, it gets a +1 bump, I reckon. +1 bump, I reckon, because of this. I reckon it's got to go but slightly behind enchanting, just because of the profession equipment. Braces, they're going to need to fix the braces, otherwise nobody will be able to use them. Braces are discovered by crafting goggles, which is really going to limit the amount of people that will even be able to unlock the patterns for braces. Meaning that maybe if you do, you're on for a win, but braces at the moment might end up being a bit of a meme. Okay, yeah, it gets low B status. Low B status. Oh, there we go. Fishing, let's move on. Fishing. Has much changed with fishing? There is some new interesting thing. Now, see, fishing has potential. Fishing has a lot of potential, and it's not really for the reasons that most people, I think, understand. Because most people won't have realised it yet. But fishing has a lot of potential because it's the pay-to-win way of leveling the Tuskar reputation. S tier? Well, let's not go that crazy. But fishing, weirdly, could be very lucrative because of its ability to, you know, because you can turn in... what I'm getting at here is you can turn in fish for reputation with the Tuskars. Which in and of itself means that you might not find it too difficult to sell a lot of fish. Now, if we are looking at it from a gold making perspective, you could stand there fishing and probably make a lot of gold if you then go off to sell the fish. Not to mention fishing is very heavily embedded with cooking this time again. Tuskars have some interesting recipes as well. They do. Plus that there's also a couple of new types of fishing that unlocks with the Tuskars, which will only emphasize the goal-making potential of fishing even more so. Surprisingly, probably for the first expansion ever, I think fishing gets high B tier. I think fishing's high B. It's got to be A. It's got to be A tier. It's got to be. I don't think it quite, because it's still a secondary profession, and it's still hella boring. But I do feel that fishing has a lot of potential to make gold. You've got the nets. That's a good point. You've got the fishing. See, this is different. It's difficult, right? Because it ties in very heavily with one of the major major factions. It ties in so heavily with one of the major factions. It almost gets a bump because of that. But it has the prerequisite, the difficulty factor, of that you have to unlock the modes with the Tuskars in the first place. But then, is it going to be more or less valuable to you than enchanting? It's definitely better than engineering. Oh, I don't know, you know, I want to put it here. I want to put it as an A tier profession, and this kills me to say it, but considering but I know I'm biased. I'm biased because I don't like gathering. But I also know that those that do go out and do fishing will probably make a lot of gold off selling fish. And on the perspective of it being a tier list for gold making, I think, isn't enchanting a region-wide seller too? It is, but so's the fish. So's the fish. What do you mean with a lot of gold? Are we talking millions? Well, we don't necessarily need to quantify because we're doing this in a relative fashion. I feel that you should be able to make more gold. It's difficult because they're different professions, obviously. One's a gathering and one's a crafting one. But just purely by the fact that fish will consistently sell because you can turn fish in for reputation. Reputation with the Tuskars, and the Tuskars hold a lot of interesting both gameplay elements. There's the ice fishing, there's the lava fishing, there's the nets, there's the spear fishing. There's a bunch of new things for people to do, which means I reckon fishing could be very good. I think that's going to be a little bit more of a controversial one, but you know, if you get access to the beta, go and have a look. But I tend to feel that for something with such an ease of access, it's got some good opportunity for gold making, I reckon. Herbalism then. Herbalism. Let's continue the trend of gathering professions then. Herbalism. Ooh. Now, herbalism, in many cases, at the beginning of an expansion, is an S tier, like insta play. Insta S tier. But let's not forget, at the start of an expansion, that's because it's usually Dark Moon cards that props them up. Dark Moon cards is not going to prop up herbalism this time round. Usually, the first couple of weeks of an expansion, herbs sell faster than you can physically farm them up, and that's because scribes are milling them and turning them into inks and making Dark Moon cards like absolute morons. That's not going to happen in Dragonflight because you don't use a single herb with any Dark Moon card. Does this mean that herbalism is going to take a knock? Because the only thing that herbalism is really going to be used for is going into the potions. Now, we did say that alchemy is right up here, which means that herbalism has got to be somewhere close, right? Because if you're not making gold by selling the potions, you're making gold by farming the materials to sell it to the alchemists to then sell the potions. But it is definitely better than fishing. So I'm going to go as far as to say that herbalism probably sneaks... It's an A-tier profession. It sneaks in this way. Region-wide auction house is going to have some play in this. Could be positively, could be negatively. We don't... until it happens, we don't really know, but I reckon it's got to sneak in. It's clearly better. It's clearly going to be better than fishing, but I don't think it's better than alchemy in and of itself. Because for alchemy to make a lot of gold, it has to be able to buy a lot of herbs to make a lot of gold. So I think this makes a lot of sense to me. It's easy as all hell though. That the difficulty of making gold with alchemy is far greater. You're going to have to really, A, get lucky with your discovery for alchemy to get the right potions, which is going to be challenge number one. You are going to be wanting to press a button on your alchemist the second it comes off cooldown, from the very minute the game goes live. Because I should also point out, for maybe anybody that doesn't know, the discovery system for alchemy has the chance to go wrong. It has the chance to backfire, kind of like engineering does. It has the chance to backfire, and if it backfires, it puts you on cooldown before you can do it again. So, yeah. You're going to be wanting to press that button with alchemy, like, the second it comes off cooldown to get access to as many potions as possible, I reckon. But herbalism is clearly going to be sneaking just behind it, I reckon. Should we do mining next? Should we do mining considering its equivalent gathering? Mining, I think, has different opportunities. Different opportunities, but are they better or worse than herbalism? We've put blacksmithing as S tier. Now, blacksmithing is going to probably be a very, very heavy usage of mining, right? It uses ore, like ridiculous amounts of it. Tyrivite ore. Haha, it's not called Tyrivite ore anymore, is it? What's it called now? Where's blacksmithing? Where's my blacksmithing page? Blacksmithing is going to be a heavy consumer of ceravite ore. There we go. Ceravite ore and draconium ore. So yeah, for blacksmiths to do what blacksmiths are going to do, it needs miners to do what miners are going to do. It clearly does. Let's also not forget that blacksmithing is not the only profession that relies on mining. It is also a heavy component for jewel crafters, for prospecting, to get gems. Now, we've not spoke about jewel crafting yet. Maybe we should have looked at jewel crafting first. But I think mining has got more potential than even alchemy. Simply for the fact that blacksmiths are going to need a lot of ore to do what they need to do. Draconium is likely to be rare. From my testing of mining on the beta, finding draconium nodes in the first place is a pain in the ass. Even when you find them, getting the ore at higher qualities is also a pain in the ass. I tend to feel that that's got to put mining right up the top there for gold making. If you're flying about, and this means like, if you're flying around on your Herba miner, you're going to cash in real quick. And engineering is also using mining. True. You got 3 big professions pulling from all of the ore in the at the start of an expansion. I think mining's got to sit up here. I think you've got more potential. I think it's probably likely to make more people more gold than alchemists will make, simply for the reason that alchemy has quite a steep barrier to entry. You've got to get the right pattern through the discovery system, which is not going to be pleasant to work with. But then if you do get the right pattern and you offer... the potential is really high here. Your potential with mining is kind of capped. But, if you do it for an hour a day or you do it for 10 hours a day, it kind of is far more repetitive than that of alchemy. It's got to be higher than alchemy. You'll understand why it's higher than alchemy when we talk about jewel crafting. Yeah. I think it's probably one of the best professions. Should we do inscription then? Because that sort of balances out the need for herbs, and because alchemy is going to pull from herbs, inscription's going to pull from herbs. Now this is a difficult one. In the first week, there's the potential for stupid money if Dark Moon cards pop off. We got to consider what Dark Moon cards might do for the profitability of this profession. For the purposes of making gold, I've looked into Dark Moon cards in a lot of detail. Dark Moon cards, they've bumped the base item level of the trinket as well, actually. The basic trinkets are now higher than they once were. Where's my scribe? Base trinkets are 372, I feel. They were implemented into the game at 350, and people didn't care about them at 350, quite rightly. Where's inscription? Dark Moon decks. So the base Dark Moon deck is item level 372. That's going to mean even your basic Bind on Equip Dark Moon deck is going to be relatively well sought after. For reference, 372 puts it at like Heroic Dungeon Gear. It's pre-raid BIS easy. But then obviously you can convert it into the Dark Moon deck box. This is a new thing for Dragonflight, something new for Dark Moon decks. which is the end game item that you're then going to be able to infuse it, and you're going to be able to get your Darkmoon deck trinket all the way up to item level 418 potentially. Now, with the power that these are going to have on them, I think there's going to be a lot of people that will be interested in these. Now, this is just one man's opinion. This is one man's opinion that doesn't particularly engage in much endgame activity. But if history repeats itself in any way, shape, or form, that instantly makes Inscryption like ridiculous for the start. But it's very heavily weighted on whether it's if Darkmoon cards pop off or not. What does Inscryption have apart from Darkmoon? Let's look at it from the perspective. It's Darkmoon. Oh, I'm really tempted to put Inscryption as S tier. It's going S tier. It's not blacksmithing level S tier, but it's definitely S. It's S tier very simply because even if the Sims don't suggest that Darkmoon cards are like best in slot, it's a Darkmoon card. We have not had an expansion launch forever where Darkmoon cards have not done ridiculous things at the beginning. I can't see there being enough of just the Sims saying that they don't sim quite as high. I can't see as being any reason why Darkmoon cards wouldn't explode to begin with. But what does Inscryption have outside of Darkmoon cards? You've got missives are playing a big part again. And they've tweaked the way that missives work, but missives are still going to be a thing. Loads of gold will be made off missives. You've got the potential of even just crafting and selling inks to other scribes that have chosen to spec in one other direction. I'm just wondering how much weight am I putting on these Darkmoon decks? Oh! Scribes also sell other crafters knowledge points. This puts it up. Yeah, it's definitely S tier. It's definitely S tier. It's definitely S tier. Inscryption has the ability to sell other profession knowledge points, which is just bonkers. There is a cooldown on it, and it's only 1 point, but it means every single crafter for every single profession in the game is going to want one of these. Scribes are not going to have any difficulties whatsoever selling these treaties to other characters.
Are you just glad to see me?
Absolutely.
Both, I hope.
It's almost time. Laughing face, see I am a bit too late to come in.
Hey, don't worry. This will end up on YouTube. You're all good. Yeah, Inscryption is definitely S tier. I don't think that it's got quite as long a life to it as blacksmithing, so I don't think it's going to be better than blacksmithing. I still think the fact that blacksmiths make weapons primarily, backed up by a solid showcase of plate gear and the majority of professions' tools, I still think blacksmithing is going to outshine Inscryption from a goal-making perspective. But selling knowledge points to other professions and obviously Darkmoon cards, it's just an insta-win, I reckon. Insta-win. It's going to be expensive as all hell. But on the flip side, I reckon you should make a lot of gold by doing that at the same time. Yeah. And the dragon riding stuff, that's also a very good point. All of the dragon riding stuff, dragon riding, all of the cosmetic, or a lot of cosmetics for dragon riding. I forget to put weight on cosmetic items. But yeah, it has access to a hell of a lot of cosmetics for the dragon riding. In somewhat replacing glyphs, which is a bit sad that Inscryption doesn't make glyphs. But these are going to be presumably steady sellers for you as well. They'll come through work orders once again, but either way, they'll be reasonably valuable enough, and you'll be able to consistently sell these, I reckon. Yeah, Inscryption's S tier. Inscryption's definitely S tier. There's no doubt about it. Should we talk jewel crafting then? Jewel crafting. What do we think jewel crafting is going to do? Jewel crafting's in a bit of a funny position. Jewel crafting is my main profession, so I should know it inside out. The difficulty I have is this is very, very heavily reliant, super heavily reliant on people actually wanting gems. This is the thing, right? If all of a sudden people decide that they don't really care so much about gems, jewel crafting's in a bit of a sticky spot. But because it has the complexity of prospecting, the complexity that is added by prospecting instantly makes it a good profession for gold making, even if the end things that you craft aren't super in demand. This is why I've been a jewel crafter for like 10 years on my main character, because every expansion, it's a super consistent gold maker. Early days, rings and necklaces. Rings and necklaces. You're selling, you have any class that has the ability to sell a power upgrade to any character, it's a winning class. It's a winning profession. Any tailors out there will understand what I mean from the perspective of capes, right? You're not selling just to a select few people that happen to wear that armor class. You're crafting rings and necklaces for everybody. It's got to be A tier. The question is does jewel crafting sit, where does it sit in this hierarchy? Where does it sit in the hierarchy? I think it goes... Ooh, it's hard. It's a hard one, you know. I've got to think about where it goes relative to maybe some of the other things that are coming up. Because jewel crafting has got gems. Prospecting... Nobody understands prospecting rates properly. The number one question you get about jewel crafting is, how does prospecting work? Meaning that those that do understand the maths can make stinking amounts of gold from it, because they know when to buy and when not to, more importantly, when not to buy ore. Do we reckon it's better than mining? Do we reckon you're going to make more gold from jewel crafting than you could with mining? I think miners are still going to take the lion's share of the profits, because they'll also be selling. You as a jewel crafter are going to be competing with blacksmiths, and you're going to be competing with engineers for your materials. I do think jewel crafting, because you're making rings and necklaces for everybody, power gaining items, it's got to be better than alchemy, but I don't think it's better than mining. Not in the first months or so. Yeah, I tend to agree, I think. I think it sneaks in here, you know. I think it sneaks in between alchemy and mining. Alchemy is, you know, is going to be a tough one, but it has potential. Whereas mining is simple and practically guaranteed. And miners are going to have to sell their, you know, miners are going to be able to choose where they sell. They're going to have many, many customers, right? They're going to be selling their wares to blacksmiths, to jewel crafters, and to engineers. Which means that your material costs are going to be high. It's going to be good, but it's not going to be super mega crazy. And the only reason it's not higher than this is because I don't really believe that gems are going to be a massive thing. They're clearly not powerful enough. They're clearly too convoluted. There's like 20 different gem cuts with different combinations of stuff. That means that you're taking quite a risk crafting some of everything, because not everything is going to sell very well. Yeah, I think that makes sense for jewel crafting. It's an A tier one for sure, but I still think you'll find it far easier and probably end up making more gold with mining. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Let's get skinning out the way. Let's get skinning out the way, because it's the last gathering one. The last gathering one, and it means that we can then talk about leatherworking in a little bit more sensible fashion. Skinning's an interesting one this time round, because I don't feel that from the perspective of gold making, skinning's going to be that good. I'm not convinced with skinning. Let's look at who uses the skin. The leather and the scales that you get is going to be entirely funneled through to one profession for the most part. Leatherworkers. Now, we haven't spoke about leatherworking, but I do think that leatherworking is going to be I'll give you a sneak peek with leatherworking. Leatherworking is going to be very good. Skinning, though, because some of the changes that we've seen in Shadowlands to group skinning, the only saving grace for skinning could be if the rare materials are rare. Because let's not forget, heavy callous hide was a thing, right? Heavy callous hide was a thing. You'd only get a couple of them an hour, and they were in heavy demand. But they were in heavy demand in Shadowlands because of legendaries. We don't strictly have that level of demand in Dragonflight. I'm going to go as far as I think skinning is a B. I think skinning's a B. Now, I might eat my hat on this one. I might end up being proven wrong, but I don't think skinning's got that much potential. The only thing that could, like I said, be a bit of a saving grace is if leatherworking ends up being monstrous. All the Drakthir running around wanting the gear. See, this is the only saving grace, I think, that if leatherworking, it'll get pulled further up the list because of leatherworking. It's probably got to be a tier one. It's got to be equivalent to the other gathering, but I don't think it's that high. I think this makes sense. Is skinning going to make more than fishing? Probably. It's going to make more gold than fishing. It's going to make more gold than fishing because of Drakthir. 3 male classes, 4 leather classes. True. But group skinning. Look what group skinning did to leather in Shadow at the end of Shadowlands. You get a couple of 2x4 skinning farms on the go, and you are just flooded with materials. I think it's got to fit there. I think it's the worst of the gathering professions. It's the worst of the gathering professions, I reckon. By that I mean it's not as good as herbalism or mining. It requires you to have a relatively well-geared character-ish to be effective with it. Group skinning is going to mean that it's going to push the prices down very aggressively. And even the demand of leatherworking, I don't think is going to overpower just how much skin will be produced in the early days. Leather and scales, rare leather and scales. The baiting is being yet to be tested in much detail. So this is probably the one I have the least confidence with. It's still an A-tier profession. Let's not get it wrong. It's still going to be pretty good for gold making, but I do think there are better options. The normal leather is going to end up being worthless as the insane amount of the common one. Well, I'm hoping there'll be some... I've not looked into details on this, but I am hoping that there'll be some exit strategy for the basic leather and scale. Just like we have today where, you know, desolate leather can be converted into something and vended. It clears it out the system. Otherwise, it will just pile up and pile up and pile up, kind of like Callous Hide did. But yeah, I think it will be good, but it won't be better than these. This is kind of the point here. We got to rank the... It's a hierarchy, right? I think it'll stand its ground. You'll make a bunch of gold if you go out there skinning, but you probably won't make as much gold as by engaging in some of these other professions. I think that's fair. Should we do leatherworking then? Because leatherworking ties in nicely to skinning. Leatherworking having Drakthir. Now, I know I'm also biased, but leatherworking is super powerful for one simple reason. It's basically like having 2 professions. Now, it's powerful because of that in the first place, that you're creating leather gear and you're making mail gear. But Drakthirs are a thing, right? The demand for mail gear is going to go through the roof. Everybody has a hunter to begin with. Shamans exist, but Drakthirs, man, Male armor is going to be in super high demand, and those Drakthers are going to have to pay a premium if they want their best gear, and they want it before the rest of the 10 million other Drakthir. There is no doubt in my mind that leatherworking is S tier. The question becomes, is it going to be more or less profitable than mining an inscription? Is it going to, where is it going to sit in this tree? Inscription is going to do silly things with Dark Moon cards. But once Dark Moon cards gets saturated, leatherworking will come into play. See, it's interesting. At the in the very early days, it's here. But it only gets better and it only gets stronger the longer you spend playing with leatherworking. The more knowledge points you get with leatherworking, it could easily be here. Could easily end up top of the tree for gold making potential. But in the first couple of weeks, it's here. So do we stick it in the middle just because it's kind of a bit of a... Leatherworking also makes armor kits as well, you know. Leatherworking's making commodities as well that are big. Ah, it's going here. It's going here. Inscription is a one-hit wonder, right? Inscription's a one-hit wonder. Dark Moon cards, you're going to do silly things with Dark Moon cards, but it won't last forever. But the fact it's still a thing means that it's a... Yeah, it's here. It's here. You're making all of the equipment for all of the new Drakthir. You also have a few consumables. Armor kits, drums. Yeah. Is it better than blacksmithing? Is the fact that you're making everything for Drakthir, does that inherently make it better than blacksmithing? Blacksmith makes weapons. Blacksmiths make profession tools for everybody. Oh, it's tough. In the long run, yeah. In the long run, I do think it's here. Just because your options, it's like having two professions to begin with. Leatherworking has the offhand caster weapons too. I think it does, yeah. Should we just double check leatherworking real quick? We'll double check leatherworking. Where's my leatherworker? Leather cow, I presume, is my leatherworker. Let's just do a quick sanity check. I'm in two minds whether it gets top of the tree or not. Let's take a little bit of a look at everything that... So you've got all of the leather gear. It's just had... Okay, we won't talk about that just yet. It makes all the leather gear. It makes all of the endgame mail gear. Oh, it makes a lot of profession equipment as well. It's the profession accessories, not the tools. There's the crossbow. I think there's... Oh, there's just a lot of cool items of gear that it makes. The reagents itself, there's enough intermediates, but blacksmithing also deals heavily in intermediates, so that's sort of, you know, +1, -1. Armor kits and drums as well. I'm trying to not be biased here, but I do think leatherworking is top of the tree. I think leatherworking has got to be top of the tree so far. It's got to be top of the tree. It makes lots of profession gear. It makes everything that all of these new Drakthir are going to want. It also supplies all of the leather wearers in the entire game. It's backed up with armor kits and drums. It's got commodities in there. It's got everything. It's got a bit of everything. It's going to be a profession that will, you know, consistently keep up with what's going on though. Blacksmithing is very heavily focused on the weapons. Blacksmith's advantage is weapons, and it makes the profession tools. But leatherworking's got a little bit of everything, and it's going to be able to allow you to specialize in any one of those directions and do well. Which I think has the potential to make you more gold with leatherworking, I reckon. Blacksmithing will be best in the first patch. Leatherworking will... Well, you see, this is it, right? That's what I didn't specify at the beginning. I just went purely by the theory of the professions are going to be ranked based on their ability to make gold. I didn't strictly say when they're going to make gold. But I think leatherworking is going to be more consistent. And that sort of makes sense with this, right? Darkmoon cards, one-hit wonder. Make a gold cap. Blacksmithing then goes on to make everybody's weapons and everybody's profession tools. But then long-term leatherworking has the most potential, I reckon, simply because there's so many classes that their gear comes from leatherworking. Yeah, I'm going with that. That means we have only one to speak of. We have tailoring. Where does tailoring fit into the mix with all of this? Tailoring, unfortunately, has a issue in that it doesn't rely on any form of natural gathering. B for bags. Tailoring, sure, it makes cloth gear for cloth wearers. There's bags. It's always got bags. The bags are they're not any more special than what they ever have been. There's no quality on bags. Your materials themselves don't strictly have quality to it. Tailoring, I think, is a B. I think tailoring's a B. It doesn't do anything special. It would normally be higher. Tailoring would normally be higher, but everything else is excelling in what it has to offer. Tailoring's not really changed. Tailoring, if we take let's take a quick look at tailoring. Tailoring's not really changed much. Everybody gathers cloth, which instantly makes cloth one of the more cheaper materials, generally speaking. Meaning that the cloth gear in it of itself ends up being cheaper. You have cooldowns on your materials. Ooh. You make cloth gear. Yeah, it doesn't excel anywhere. It makes a few bits of profession gear. Spell threads, bags. It's got a few utility things, but nothing super special. Yeah, it's a difficult one, tailoring. The question for me becomes, is you going to make more gold from enchanting, or are you going to make more gold from tailoring? Is it going to be more from enchanting, or is it going to be more from tailoring? And the fact that I can't easily work out if you'd make more gold from enchanting, I think purely the fact that it makes gear, which enchanting doesn't. Any profession that makes a serious piece of power upgradable gear, I think it's either high B or low A. High B or low A. It's a tricky one. I don't think that tailoring does enough new to outpace these in terms of gold making. You can fish and you can sell fish all day. Anybody trying to level up the Tuskars fast are going to buy as many fish as you can get your hands on them. Skinning is going to provide all of the materials for leatherworking, so it's clearly going to make more. Yeah, I think it's high B. I think that's it. I think that's my tier list for Dragonflight professions. I think that there's some logic that's gone into that I hope you lot agree with. I guess I should at this point, considering that we're going to probably put this on YouTube, suggest that people leave their comments in the leave your comments down below. Hit the like button whether you agree or disagree, and subscribe if you're new around here. I've been Manthios. I'll see you all next time. Peace. Well, there's the YouTube video. What do we think? What do we... Hi, YouTube. Hi, Mum. I'm on the telly. You're forgetting the best profession that eliminates all professions, being Bobby Kotick. Well, yes. That is definitely a win. That is definitely a win. Hi, YouTube. Bye, YouTube. Say it all again, please, but in the YouTube voice. No. No. I think that makes sense to me. From what I know and from what I've seen of the professions, I think that makes sense to me. Your Drakthers push leatherworking into the stratosphere. And it has a long, sustainable way of making gold. You'll probably make more gold with Darkmoon cards early on than you will with leatherworking, but then leatherworking will catch up and overtake it because Darkmoon cards will be, you know, they'll go crazy for a little while and people will complain about the price of them, and then, you know, it will normalize a little bit. My main question is, should I play my leatherworking tailorer or my blacksmith enchanter? Whichever class you enjoy more. Your first class, your main class, be prepared to spend a long time on them because they're the ones that are going to be doing the hard slog to unlock the reputations. You're going to be looking to max those reputations on your main character. Engineers are going to be crafting reagents needed for tailoring gear, the bind-on pickup gear anyway. Hang on. Engineers aren't making stuff for tailors. You making that up now? Oh, the souls. These things. Yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah, I forgot about those soul things. That's going to be a weird one, you know. You're going to want tailoring and engineering on the same class. That's really weird. Otherwise, how that's going to... How's that going to... What? Hang on. That's really weird. I'd forgotten about these things. How's that going to work? Because, you know, the work order system is such that if it's a bind-on pickup material, if you want... Does that mean that if you're if you're a tailor and you want a tailored piece of gear, that you are first going to have to put in a work order with an engineer to get one of these things, to then be able to even put your work order into the tailor to get this thing made? Say you're a priest who for some reason is not a tailor themselves. That's weird. Yeah. It's another reason for me to not like the work order system, even before it's in the game. And the alchemists makes the special glass soul jars for the engineers' elemental sucking machines. I do like the fact that there's this interconnectivity between the professions, but what I don't like is they've locked everything behind bind-on pickup shit. If you're gonna have, you know, one profession needing the assistance of another, don't make it difficult for those two professions to interact with each other. You know? I've also just noticed that a lot of these recipe difficulties on this endgame stuff is difficulty 400. 400. That is before you infuse it with a thing which could push its difficulty up by 50. And before you even slap on a finishing... Oh my lord. Quality 5 stuff's going to be tough to make, you know. Quality 5 mythic gear, you're going to have to be an absolute boss to be able to make that. Did you once upon a time suggest that having 2 leather workers to race to max both mail and leather skill points? What do you think now? Not really. Not really, because it's going to then require you to do the rep grind twice. The big issue, I feel, in many cases, is that any reputation gains you need... it depends. I'm still safely in the camp of no. Doubling up professions is probably not a sensible thing. It's one of those things that on paper looks like quite an attractive thing to do, but when you actually you realize the reality of what you're trying to do, you're trying to basically take a second main class. I might have said it is worthwhile doing if it wasn't for the fact they've just over doubled the rep grind. You're going to spend so much time gathering as much reputation as you possibly can to unlock the higher end patterns. In some scenarios, for reference, the main basic crafted gear. So for tailors, for example, your vibrant Wildercloth stuff, you learn the recipes for this via the spec trees. But the fancy bits of gear, the Azurweave garments, the Chronocloth garments, you tend to learn these through rep grinds. And the rep grind is already going to be a grind on one character. You want to do everything in your power to minimize the rep grind, because otherwise you are just straight up doubling, if not, tripling or quadrupling the amount of time you're going to spend just doing world quests. It's going to be bad enough doing world quests every single day on your main character to maximize your rep. It's going to be bad enough doing that on one character, never mind trying to do it on 2 or on 3. But you do you is the honest answer there, really. I'm not going to be doing it. I'm going to have one main character, my hunter, which is a leatherworker and a jewel crafter, and I'm going to do everything I can possibly do on that character, and only once I have cleared the map of possibilities will I even contemplate logging onto an alt to repeat the process. A higher priority for me would be to make sure that my alts get their knowledge points, because knowledge points are on a, there's a certain quantity you can get in a week, and there's certain things you're going to need to do to get those knowledge points on your alts. That is going to be a higher requirement for me on my alts than rep grinding. I'll rep grind on my main, unlock as much as I can on my main, and which in turn will make the grind easier on my alts. But I can't in good faith suggest people double up on professions and have to do the rep grind twice. There's the negatives far outweigh the positives in that situation for me, I feel. Right, I might leave it there for a couple of minutes. I'm going to go grab a drink. I've been talking a lot. We're over 2 hours in, and I'm out of coffee. I need a drink. You guys will have to occupy yourselves for a couple of minutes. When we get back, I suppose we can start just, having the UI is completely fucked for the beta right now, but we can still poke about and have a look, see if there's anything interesting. If any of you guys want, to deep dive on a certain profession or whatever, shout and we can take a look. But I'm going to grab a drink. I'm going to take a quick break for 2 minutes, boys and girls. Occupy yourselves. I'll be back in 2. Alrighty. Looks like I'm going to be making at least 3 ults before raid release. That's, that sounds like a lot of busy work to me. That sounds like a lot of busy work. Like I said, my main priority, I think, more than anything else, is going to be to make sure that on my ults, I'm not going to be focusing too much on leveling them, nor am I going to be focusing too much on, you know, unlocking new recipes and patterns with them. But what I will be doing is doing as much as I can to make sure I keep up with the knowledge points. The one thing that's of more of a concern to me than anything else is that we already know that there's going to be X amount of knowledge points that will be acquirable in any given week. If you go a week without getting those knowledge points, you're just behind. There's no other way to describe it than you are just behind. There's seemingly no catch-up system for knowledge points that we can fathom in any way, shape, or form. And knowledge points are going to be the key element that could keep you ahead of the game. The more knowledge, because you'll get to a point with your profession, even when you max your profession, that's 100 base skill. 100 base skill points you get 1 skill point for every point in the profession you have. So there's 100 skill. The more knowledge points you get, the more bonus skill you'll be able to accrue through spending those knowledge points in your spec trees. When you have endgame patterns that require severely heavy numbers of skill points to craft them at max quality, the last thing you want to be is a week behind somebody else because you didn't go out and gather all of the knowledge points you could do. Forget all of the other materials. Like, honestly, knowledge points and pushing your skill as high as you possibly can, as fast as you possibly can, is the key to success here. More so than anything else, I reckon. And, I mean, you know, endgame patterns, 382 endgame crafted bits of gear can be infused up to item level 418, technically. You then look at the specialist pieces of gear. Recipe difficulties of 400. You only get 100 skill from leveling your profession. You need to somehow find 300 skill points. Guess where the majority of those are going to come from? Knowledge points in your spec tree. It's going to be a fair while, even if you're doing absolutely everything you possibly can every week on your professions. It's going to be a fair while before people are making these bits of gear at like tier 4 or tier 5, which is good. That's exactly what I wanted. But the point being, the problem with this whole system, with it being a long system that's going to last a couple of months quite easily, the problem with that being is if there is no way for people to catch up if they miss a single knowledge point. If you miss a single knowledge point on a profession, you will always be 1 knowledge point behind somebody else that didn't miss that 1 knowledge point. This is why we're trying so aggressively to find as many different ways of gaining knowledge points as we possibly can, so that we know as many sources, so that we can sort of, you know, as a crafter, have a bit of a checklist. Have I done this and got my knowledge point from doing that activity this week? Yes or no? Can you earn knowledge before 70? Yes. Guess a knowledge point weekly farm video would be a blockbuster. Maybe. It's more of a case of trying to find them. It's trying to work out what do you have to do to gain a knowledge point. And this is where it's it's mostly a community effort thing. Because, you know, any one person can only play the beta so much. This is where if you find a source of knowledge in some way, shape or form, throw it in the Discord. I'm keeping track of everything so that eventually we'll have, hopefully, a list that we can just work to. Then won't we need more knowledge for new gear in 10.1, 10.2? The grind will never technically be complete. I don't know. We don't know. This is the thing. We don't really know what they're going to do in 10.1 or 10.2. We need a knowledge channel in the Discord. Just throw it up in the Dragonflight beta channel. Is there any profession that people are really keen to have a look at, and we can you know, home in on something? It's a little bit difficult at the moment because yeah, this. For some reason the UI is completely gobbledygook, but leatherworking. It's not a surprise, is it really? Leather cow. Yeah, it is something that I'll probably start adding to the cheat sheet. A little bit of a list of, you know, where stuff comes from. The UI is scuffed. Perfect day to do some archaeology. Maybe. They added a few new things for leatherworking overnight, or in the last build, actually. They've added a new flurry of seemingly low-level patterns. I have been informed.
Greetings, traveler.
Although I apparently seem not to be able to speak to this guy for some reason. Hello?
What brings you here? Walk with
Have we got some funky add-ons? Oh, this stupid immersion add-on that's breaking everything.
I've been
Leatherworking. Yeah, here we go. They've added a whole bunch of early leveling patterns, which is going to completely screw with my leveling guides, but it's fine. That was to be expected. So now we have a full set of leather gear, starting from level 61. Starting at level 61. 306. In theory, you can still use your Titan training matrices, which you'll acquire through leveling, to maybe upgrade it to 64 or to upgrade it to 70, and presumably taking it even further if you really wish to. 61, 61. 61. So the new ones they've added are actually level 70. This is good though. This is good. This is the stuff that you sell like an absolute crazy person the first week. Fresh level 70 gear. You know, all of those people that zerg to level 70 as fast as they physically can always end up putting themselves in the position that they ding level 70 and they have got 0 gear. Their item level is dog doo-doo. I leveled by doing every single quest in every single zone, and I dinged level 70 with an item level, I think, in the region of about 330. 320, 330. But that was by me doing every quest on the route. People that just power level doing the main storyline only are probably going to hit level 70 with not much more than item level 300 gear. Let's not forget, a lot of those people will be coming from Shadowlands with item level 300 gear. Most people who are well geared now, their main characters will plow through all of the content and ding level 70, and they probably won't have replaced much gear. It probably won't be till level 68 before people start actually replacing gear. Meaning that this stuff, although, you know, some people are looking at this and going, oh, it's leveling gear, why does it require level 70? Well, simply because that's what people will do, is they will just power to 70. And then they'll want this stuff. The first week, this stuff sells like hotcakes. Especially this Trailblazer toughened gear. Oh my lord, you are going to sell so much of this to so many Drakthir characters, it's not even funny. Did you hit 70 before ending the campaign whilst doing side quests? Doing every single quest in every single zone, I dinged 70 halfway through the Azure span. I hadn't even stepped foot in the last zone yet. And to be honest, that's the sensible way to do it, I think, because you're going to want to do all of the side quests for the reputation on your main character anyway, so you might as well do them whilst you're gaining some experience from it at the beginning anyway. The only thing, you know, you're going to have to go back and probably do those quests anyway, so... Is there a necklace blue and does it have any sockets? We can check jewel crafting in a minute, see if they've added some new patterns to jewel crafting. Somebody told me that they'd added new patterns to leatherworking, which is why I checked these to begin with. But 333 gear, 333 gear, fresh level 70s, you'll sell this all day long. 10, 15k a piece, you'll sell this all day long. No problems whatsoever. Not much, you know, not overly difficult. You'll probably be able to, if you're leveling up your leatherworking, what am I, level 35. Yeah, you're probably not going to be making... 333 is quality 1. You could make this up to 343 at quality 5. You could probably quite easily make quality 3 versions of this in the first few days of the expansion, if you went the gear route. I'm probably, now whilst I haven't decided this, because I've not looked into it in as much detail, but I'm probably going to go the mail armor crafting route on my leatherworker. I am a hunter after all, so, you know, from a purely selfish perspective, it makes sense, because any gear I learn and craft, I can wear it myself. Secondly, I know I'll also then be able to sell that to any Drakthirs that come along. Your alternative is to go sort of more in the direction of making the gear, making the intermediate things cheaper and stuff, but keeping costs down is not something that I want to focus on to begin with. There's clearly going to be a market for that, though. It's going to be really weird being a leather worker and finding it optimal to probably buy intermediate items off other people. It's going to be a really weird scenario. Do you recommend leveling any old expansion professions now or even after Dragonflight comes out? Not really. Not really. It's not it. I mean, if you're straight up bored and have got nothing to do, then sure, but not really. There's nothing that is going to your opportunities from a goal making perspective will be heavily focused on the new stuff. Even Shadowlands stuff, if you've not leveled everything in Shadowlands right now, unless you're just a bit of a completionist, I wouldn't bother. Although everything is super duper mega cheap to level up right now because the materials are basically free. So, yeah, sure. Stacking inspiration is going to be key, I reckon. Armor crafting is 10% faster, plus inspiration and plus resourcefulness. I'm going to need to stack inspiration like a crazy person. The more inspiration I can get my hands on, the better. The more inspiration I can get, the quicker and easier it will be to make things reliably at higher quality. I should probably pick up skinning, and then I should go investigate skinning in a bit more detail. As it worries me slightly that I don't quite fully understand just how readily available these rare materials are going to be. The reality is I'm probably not going to spend much time going and getting them myself though. I will clearly end up just buying them all off the auction house at whatever they cost, and then just, you know, pass that cost on. Natural goblin crafting stuff. It's kind of annoying in beta at the moment that the vendor stuff costs so much and you only come with a small amount of gold. Do you not realise you've got a box in your bag that gives you unlimited gold? It's chest of playtest equipment. There's 10,000 gold in this, and you can open it as many times as you want. You got unlimited gold on the beta.
I have just the thing for you.
What is this? Professor Instructor's Brain? Increase all Dragon Isles profession skills to 100. Okay. Okay, that's funny. That's that's clearly so that people who want to just make some gear very quickly for testing Mythic Plus or the raid or whatever don't have to level the profession first. Handy. It shuts all of those people up that were complaining that inscription takes too long to level. Even with cheap vendors. I really want to know where half of this stuff, where these recipes actually come from though.
May the eternal sun shine.
Buy it all, mail it to retail. If only it worked that way. If only it worked that way. I'm intrigued actually. I like to keep my eyes on what's going on the forums. I like to see what the general opinion is. Where's my... let's jump on the forums real quick. See if there's any news. Yeah, I know. Overwatch is free to play. Thanks. Why is my internet so slow? There we go. Be curious how region-wide skinning materials drop by the hour really fast and at what point it finds a floor. See, I've not done this yet, but one thing I've been contemplating doing is trying to find as and where the floor prices might be for these materials. The issue is that they're not as easy to calculate as they have been previously. If we look, for example, just leatherworking, even these new recipes that they've added, right? These don't strictly have a floor price like what we're used to, because the bottleneck is likely to be these rare materials. Even the basic stuff is using rare materials. Normally the basic stuff only uses the basic materials and a vendor reagent, which is not the case. Every single item needs either a dense hide or an illustrious scaled hide. So that doesn't really mean that there's much, if any, of a floor price on the scales or the leather itself, which is a bit of a concern, because it could just mean that this stuff just goes down and down and down and down and down and down, like what Callous Hide has done now, because there's no exit strategy for Callous Hide, is the reason it's 1 silver. Would be a shame and a rookie mistake to try and getting a bunch of materials on day 2 at 6 AM to craft stuff and then find out your resource cost is halved by 6 PM. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a challenge to see. But the bottleneck is clearly the rare reagent. Clearly. And there's practically nothing that doesn't use a rare reagent. Which means there's basically no floor price on the common reagent. This was partly the reason I was a bit concerned for skinning. People will be skinning for the purpose of getting hides and scales. And in fact, yeah, it'll entirely be about getting hides. And the adamant scales and the resilient leather will just keep going down and down and down as it piles up and up and up. Because sure, you use it in greater quantities, but I shit you not, you're not going to farm up 2 illustrious scales hide for every 10 resilient leather that you farm up. You're always going to end up with way more of this than you know what to do with. On top of the fact that the hide is then combined with essences to make superior intermediate items as well. Only further extending the demand for this stuff. As this higher quality hide is not going to use any of the basic leather at all. $60 resilient leather, 4 stone crust hides. Now each stone crust hide takes 1 dense hide. So that's 4 dense hides basically. 4 dense hides plus a few other bits, plus a lot of awakened essences. Plus resilient leather. Yeah, there's nothing, there's no vendor shuffles. But it's the vendor shuffles that create the floor prices for these materials. You could argue, though, that the floor prices are not really healthy for the game's economy. It might be a very deliberate thing to make it so that there just isn't floor prices. And that if people keep skinning, the price is going to keep going down. And the price will keep going down and the materials will keep stacking up. Until people get bored or don't find it worthwhile their time skinning anymore. But this is also this is why I didn't rate skinning very highly. As there's a very, very strong chance that it will be all about the hide. Leather, nobody cares. Yeah. Looking through every recipe here. Let me fix. I can't find. Is there a single recipe for anything that could potentially act as an exit for the basic leather? No. Everything is using hides. Some way, shape or form. This is all endgame stuff. PvP gear maybe? No, still uses I wonder if it's the same for tailoring, actually. If it ends up being the same for tailoring, that makes cloth gather... Because it's not uncommon for, in the early days, 2x4 farming to be like a big boom. 2x4 farming to get the world drop BOEs that will clearly exist. But everybody on those boomkins takes tailoring at the same time so that they gather a bunch of cloth. And we're making loot. Maybe Blizzard are really cautious about not making the same mistake twice. Because in Shadowlands, shrouded cloth was worth 8 gold each. And people were getting 5,000 shrouded cloth an hour. People were making 35,000 gold an hour. Flat rate. Just by vendor shuffling. Until obviously a few days later they fixed it. But yeah, scales. Yeah, there's no reason. There's no reason for either the adamant scales or the resilient leather. There is absolutely nothing stopping this tanking to 0. And it will tank to 0 faster the rarer that dense hides are. I should probably test skinning a bit, shouldn't I? I've not got a character that I can put skinning on for easy testing though. We might wait until they let us create level 70 characters. If they even let us create level 70 characters. I don't particularly look forward to leveling a character just to put skinning on it. So if there's no exit strategy for all the cloth, there's... Sorry, for the leather. Let's take a look at tailoring. Tailoring is obviously a bit weird since that you take the cloth and you spin it into thread and then you use that thread. So there may end up being floor prices on the cloth. You can take wilder cloth and you can spin it into thread. Then that thread is, you know, those spools of wilder thread are combined with yet more wilder cloth. So realistically, it is actually, although it looks like 2 components here, it's actually only 1. 4 spools of wilder thread is probably 5 wilder cloth in the first place. So 11 wilder cloth can be vendored out for 35 gold. That puts a floor price of like, what, 3 gold? Oh, that one's even worse. I expect completely in cloth finding, you get decent amount of cloth. It's the robe that's the nearly 70 gold each for the robes. And it's 12 wilder cloth plus whatever it takes you to get 5 spools of wilder thread. Which is, give or take, another 5, maybe 6 wilder cloth, right? 5 wilder cloth. If I turn 100 wilder cloth into spools, do I have any spools in my bags that I need to get rid of before I try this? If I do this, what, 20 times? See what the ratio is. Now, there's also a chance that flipping inspiration and resourcefulness and all sorts of stuff will kick into play here. It looks like an average of 4. So there's a slight, for every 5 you spend, you only actually get 4 spools. Looks like the rough. Yeah, pretty much exactly. 100 Wildercloth turned into 75 bolts. So there's a 25% tax. 25% tax. So that makes your robe take 12 plus, should we say 6 for ease of maths. So 18 Wildercloth gets you 69 gold. Uh, 69.12 divided by 18. That's too high. That's too high. Blizzard, that's too high. That number's too big. That number needs to be half that size. That number needs to be half that size. Yeah, that needs to be half that size. Because this is at like practically 0 skill. With no tools, no specs, no nothing. There'll come a point where you'll be able to use even less. Yeah, that number's too high. That basically means every single piece of Wildercloth that you gather will be worth 3.84 gold. Creates a floor price of nearly 4 gold on Wildercloth, which is twice as high as it should be.
Hello there.
Blizzard seem to try and make it so that no single material can ever be converted into more than 2 gold. And if you look at things like Shrouded Cloth now, it's even considerably less than that. It's like, what is it, 0.65 gold or something? 65 silver per piece of cloth that drops. But you can, forever and a day, turn Wildercloth. If you can get Wildercloth for less than 3 gold 84, you can run a profit. That's too high. That's too high. Especially since it will add up. It will mount up because everybody gets cloth. The reason I look at cloth quickly and first is because it's the material that always has the highest quantity of it available in the early days. Are any of them any worse than that? The robe is usually the worst culprit for it. 12 and 5 for 69. 12 and 6 for less. 8 and 6 for only 35. 12 and 7 for 70. I mean, that's almost the same, but the robe is still technically better. Eight and 6 for 35 is not good enough. 8 and 6 for yeah. So that's the risky one. Oh my god, are we going to be in a stupid situation where we end up with vendor shuffles happening on day 1 of the expansion again? It's going to be wild. Any tailors out there? How many tailors do we have in chat? How many tailors out there have had much experience? How much Wildercloth have you guys been coming across when, you know, traversing the worlds? Is it that you have to be a tailor to find Wildercloth? Because I know tattered Wildercloth is a thing. Is it such that only tailors get regular Wildercloth whilst regular Joes get the tattered stuff? The tattered stuff, which doesn't seem to be worth anywhere near as much. You turn 5 pieces of tattered into 5 pieces of tattered seems to be the equivalent of 1 piece of regular. Although you can't actually convert it, but, you know, you convert it through turning it into thread. Found some yesterday, pretty sure it's a non-tailor. This is one of those things that, you know, we just take an afternoon and we just run some numbers and we test it. I'm just trying to find my feet with it first. Where's my... Has my main character got a bunch of it? I would presume he probably does. Always been a blacksmith and a miner, ended up with alchemy and enchanting for raiding since flasks and cauldrons were always used. Cannot wait to get back into a deep profession. I wouldn't swap your professions around too much on a single character. Nowadays, it's usually recommended to just level an alt. But reputation grinds are going to be a thing by the looks of things in Dragonflight, so... cloth. There's a piece of wilder cloth. So, clearly, you do get it. What have I put in the bank? Which one of these buildings is the bank? It's this one, I think.
It is an honor, champion.
Okay. So yeah, tattered wilder cloth and regular wilder cloth and even singed wilder cloth apparently without actually being a tailor. Now obviously not a lot of it, but I wasn't particularly farming for it. You know, my initial concern here is the 2x4 BOE farming groups that will very quickly be generating this stuff in just god-awful quantities. What is the rate in which they can take this wilder cloth and actually turn it into gold, even if it doesn't need to go anywhere near the auction house? For what's worth, I've been running heroic dungeons to test some talents out as a non-tailor. I picked up 10 wilder cloth and 28 tattered. It'll be one of those, right? There'll be an air, you know, the farmers will do farming things. They'll find those spots that are hyper spawns, you know. The student crew will find locations to farm this stuff very fast. They always do. I'm just trying to make sure that there's not a quick and easy way for it to be. You know, at the start of Shadowlands, shrouded cloth could be converted at like practically 8 gold a piece, and Blizzard had to do a real quick snap decision fix to change it because it was clearly not meant to be that way. And then towards the end of Shadowlands, they've nerfed it even further since vendor shuffles have become more of a thing. Okay. Alright. I guess we'll have to pay a little bit more attention to this. I kind of, it's a bit frustrating to use the beta at the moment still, because it's still really glitchy and pretty buggy. And more annoyingly than anything else for me personally, this character seems balked. This character's now old enough. This character was made the first day the beta started. It's now old enough that it's starting to just not work properly. Which is, for anybody that's tested the betas for a long period of time will understand, but I might need to level up a new toon. Yeah. What would be the best profession to have for daily cooldowns on alts, seeing that I have 40-something characters? They've kind of... They've kind of... I mean, obviously alchemy, you would assume. But they've kind of made it so that that's really not so much of a thing. Because you pressing a cooldown button on an alchemist that you don't really play that has no knowledge and has no skill will only be making low tier stuff. Meaning that alchemists out there that do play their characters and press their buttons are going to be making much higher tier quality things from their cooldowns. The days of having lots of ults just for the purpose of pressing a daily cooldown button may not, I mean, that strategy may not get you very far, is what I'm trying to say. You may end up with substantially higher crafting costs than others, whilst at the very same time producing lower quality end result crafts than everybody else. The entire system is designed in a way that those that play their characters and spend time in the professions have a distinct bonus, sort of killing off a lot of this just having a profession on an alt sort of thing. That's not to say that it might not work. I'm just trying to, you know, clarify the fact that it probably won't work, not the way that we're used to. And it's because it's not a case anymore of that X amount of materials make Y product. You've got quality to contend with there, and you've got the skill of your profession that makes a difference to that equation. Only alchemy has daily cooldowns. It's not just alchemy, no, a bunch of professions do, but the same theory applies. Like tailoring has a bunch of couple of cooldowns. Same thing applies though. A novice tailor, an unskilled tailor, sure, can press their button once a day, but the thing that they make is going to also then be lower quality. A higher skilled tailor will be able to press their button on a daily basis and make something of higher quality. And it will get to a point where they will also be able to make it cheaper than you can. Meaning that they just price you out the market. Is the way I see it going forward anyway. You know, everything is focused around these specializations. Becoming, you know, choosing a direction and giving benefit to those that actually spend time playing with it. Do you have the broker angler, the thing that gives plus 15 fishing? I don't know. Is that vendor still there that sells knowledge for metal? Yeah. Yeah. They appear to be... They appear to be one-time purchases, though. This fella, Rabul.
Anything new?
These appear to be one-time purchases. You can turn in 100 artisans metal for 15 knowledge points. When you acquire a greater standing with the Artisans Consortium faction, you'll unlock the rare ones, which cost 200 artisans metal and still only give you 15. And then when you become esteemed with the Artisans Consortium, you can pick up the ancient versions of them, which costs you 300 artisans metal, but will give you yet another 15 knowledge. 15 knowledge, by the way, could quite easily be almost an entire week of, you know, knowledge gains in one go. But this quantity of artisans metal is spicy. Considering you're going to run out, people will run out of artisans metal real quick. Real quick. I'm trying to time this correctly, but before too long it might be time to introduce people on YouTube to what artisans metal is, where it comes from, what you can spend it on, and how much of it you plan to get. But I'm not particularly too much of a fan of making the same video 3 or 4 times, so I'm timing it such that, you know, people will see it. We're still technically we're still 6 weeks away from the launch of Dragonflight, so launching a video about this sort of stuff now may not be too useful to many people. The audience will be much bigger closer to the time. You guys have got the advantage, though, because you watch live. Is it best to wait the first days before buying mats to level the professions for the material prices to stabilize? Depends what your goal is. I don't care what I pay for materials. I don't care what I pay for materials, because whatever I pay for my materials, I just pass on that cost to the person that buys the thing that I've crafted. Now, yeah, it is true that material prices start really high, they dip, and then they come back up until they normalize. And there is a bit of timing there for sure, but if you're short on gold, then you might have to do that. It might be a bigger risk for you to take to buy early. How long will it take a person to buy all those notes? Well, 500 of the 600 artisans metal is going to take you a long ass time to get. You get 50 a week. 50 a week is what I seem to be getting from a daily quest that's over here, which unfortunately on this character I've already done, but from this fella over here, Thomas Bright, he has a weekly quest who just gives you 50 artisans metal. So you could say it that in that regard, if you never spend this, at 50 artisans metal, you need 12 weeks. 12 weeks to get the 600 you need for these. Plus you gain 5 artisans metal every time you gain a knowledge point. So, yeah. The limiting factor, though, for most will probably be reputation with the Artisans Consortium more than it will be the metal. But you have good reason to spend this Artisans metal other places as well. So, you know, people just need to manage their funds, right? They'll need to carefully, you know, if they want to pick up these as soon as they become available, they'll need to make sure that they keep a certain amount of it aside and don't spend it. If I do profession cycling and have enough artisans metal, how long will it take me to gain the rep to buy the last one? I don't know, because I've not done it. The reputation for the Artisans Consortium seems to also be very restricted. I did a weekly quest. I did my weekly mining quest on this character. I did. And upon turning that in, I gained 500 knowledge. I did post a screenshot in the Discord. I wonder if I can find it. Yeah, I gained 500 knowledge. So, not 500 knowledge. 500 reputation with the Artisans Consortium when I handed in my weekly quest for mining. But I've done most things. My reputation is still not mega. Artisan Consortium. I'm rank 3 of 5. Which is respected, apparently. And I've got 825 reputation. I need 3,000 before I get to the next level. I've not worked out so many sources to get this reputation yet. And I don't think Blizzard's implemented them all, because I got 0 reputation when I did my herbalism quest, but I got 500 reputation when I did my mining quest. So it's still work in progress. Does that mean rush to level 70 before the reset so you can catch a weekly quest before the reset? You don't have to be 70 to pick up the weekly quests. I don't know what the exact number is, but on an alt of mine on the beta, I've been able to pick them up at level 62. So there's probably some prerequisites that you need to do to get these. Probably introducing yourself to the Artisans Consortium is a thing, which happens down in Fork River Crossing in the Naran Plains. But it's I don't know 100% what the requirements would be. Oh, one thing I did want to do, actually, is apparently the scout packs now appear on the minimap as treasure icons.
Welcome to the Dragon Isles.
If we go up to... Let's fly to the Dragonskull base camp real quickly. I'm going to have to remake my UI. It feels weird looking up here for my minimap now. No emissaries or callings in Dragonflight? Not so far. Not so far. Lots of people have been quizzing kind of like, where are they? Because they expect them to be a thing. But we've not... There isn't any so far. See, there's a treasure icon on the map. A disturbed dirt. Are they now just... They're now just... Okay. Now they're just tracked on your minimap. I wonder if that's because... Huh. That used to be... You used to have to buy a metal detector. There's a metal detector that's... Is it not even in my back? These things. You used to have to buy the expedition metal detectors to track treasures on your minimap. This was a reward. Does it mean that maybe that just becomes an unlock? I don't know. Maybe it just becomes an unlock with the dragon scale now. Is this still the same? Anomaly detection spell work. That's still the same. I can still press this button. The screen goes grayscale. And things should start appearing on my map.
It's a shame that these gorgeous frogs are tucked away in a cave.
Or it weirdly doesn't
Let's make them
seem to work
famous.
anymore. Oh, it is still showing the treasures on the... Okay. The treasures are showing on the mini-map now anyway. This is interesting. These expedition scout packs showing on the mini-map is both a good thing and a bad thing. It used to be that they didn't show on the mini-map, and that you had to spec quite aggressively into finding them. But these are a source of primal chaos. They're also rumoured to be a source of knowledge points as well, which is what I wanted to test today, because it worries me that they might be. Oh, no, hang on. I'm using my retail keybinds. I got a dragon scale thingy from one today that you hand in for the knowledge points. See, that was what I was interested in. I'm going to go to my favourite little hotspot for treasures to see if I can loot a bunch and find out. The question for me becomes more than anything is that are they going to be repeatable from treasures? Or will it be like what we've found with some of the other things, that there's a little bit of an internal secret cooldown on them? I guess the only way to find out is to try and find a few. Oh, can't do while in combat, of course. They might have moved all my bars, at least my keybinds still work though. Now, I very highly spoke about alchemy in the tier list. It should be noted though that you can farm up potions. You don't strictly need an alchemist for people who are progression focused. You're likely to end up with a bag full of potions to begin with, because running around gathering all of these treasures, you're going to find a handful of potions at the same time. Now, you may not necessarily reliably find the potions you want, so there's still going to be demand for selling potions, but people are going to be farming these things up like crazy because you need Primal Chaos. If you're progression focused, you need Primal Chaos. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes about that. You are going to need Primal Chaos, if not only for crafting gear, but also for potions. You know, one Primal Chaos goes into one endgame potion.
Let's make sweet, sweet profit together.
Which will come as quite a shock to some people. That, what? To go raiding, I'm going to have to go out and farm, bind on, pick up materials. And I don't think people have quite realised just what that means yet. Which could be fun to see. Oh, still in combat anyway. Alright, get up. Kill things. Lopan with the tier 1. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for the tier 1. Will you be doing a leveling video? Beta leatherworking UI is all messed up. It is indeed. I haven't recorded one, but they have just recently made some changes to leatherworking anyway, so I might need to go back through and do some testing before I do a leatherworking video. I have a blacksmithing one that's pre-recorded and uploaded and ready to go, but in this last build they've made some changes, so... I mean, I did preface, if you've watched the Jewel Crafting or the Alchemy one, I did preface them by saying, oi, look, it's beta, this is probably going to change, but my focus wasn't so aggressively on the leatherwork, on the leveling side of it, more as, you know, talking about how the professions work and that sort of stuff. More Primal Chaos. They've made the epic recipes way easier to get, I think. Just 1 point needed into the second sub-spec instead of 10. So you'd need to put 10 points in the first node and then only 1 point. Okay, well in that case then, it would just be a straight 10 points, because you just unlock the node. It doesn't take a... You get it on unlocking. That would then also mean that for every additional 10 points you spend, you'll be able to unlock another one. So yeah, for every 10 knowledge points, you'll be able to unlock one of the... That makes sense. That's not too much of a change. It just means you'll get access to a couple of patterns rather than just one pattern. Because it always used to be that you'd get, after unlocking the first one, your second and third and fourth would always be like 10 points behind each other. Let's get a little bit more over here. See if we can find some more treasures this way. There's usually a bunch around here somewhere. Where's the herb? There's the herb. A lush Hockenbloom. Go on then. There's so many UI bugs in this build, it's not even funny. I don't even know where to start reporting any of them. Will you need to complete Shadowlands stuff? No, no, not at all. No, you can pick up, the only requirement to pick up Dragonflight Professions will be that you need to be level 58. As long as you're 58 and above, you'll be good to go. Still only getting Primal Chaos from these. Ah, pawned the goddamn hippo. Of course I did. Where's me pet gone? You can't even report them. The bug reporting bug is not working at all. Had to post on the forums. It did make me giggle when I read that yesterday. Oh, pet's dead. Okay. The irony in the bug reporter being bugged. About sums this patch up, really. I opened like 70 of them, got one of them today. Okay. I might, if I've got the patience, just burn out a few treasures this evening, throw something up on Netflix or something, and have a little bit of a blast and see. My concern is at the moment is I don't particularly trust this character to do anything constructive. Because the more I play with this character, the more things I find that are just balked. It's good that they're not every third pile, though. And like I said, they could be subject to some, you know, internal weekly cooldown. Because Blizzard is loving themselves a sneaky cooldown. Getting a nice fair few of these cosmetics, you know. Although these seem to be the easy to come by things. May not quite be, you know, Korthia cosmetic rarity here. Be nice if they explained it rather than having to be discovered. Yeah, there's a kind of a... This is the inherent problem of doing, you know, public beta testing. That... And I'm the first one to bitch and moan about this, but it's mainly because I spend a lot of time on the betas trying to figure this stuff out, and it just gets frustrating, because you end up feeling as if you're just working for free for Blizzard, right? That's kind of how it comes across, is that you want us to test your game for you and you want us to provide, you know, valuable feedback, yet they don't give us the tools to adequately do it. I mean, I'm so glad that at least in this expansion they've given us profession vendors. I don't know how many of you remember my efforts to try and test the Shadowlands beta, but that was an absolute living nightmare because they didn't give us any access to freebie materials. Every drop of profession testing for Shadowlands was done in this style of environment, where if you wanted materials, you had to go out and get them. And luckily, I found some sneaky ways to get some more materials quicker than most people, so I was able to test things. But It was not pleasurable. But yeah, in a public test environment, there's always that argument that they don't want to give all the game away. They don't, you know, they want to keep some stuff to themselves. And, you know, depending on when you ask me, I'm strongly of the opinion that the beta is not really for testing anyway. I tend to believe that the baiting is actually more for marketing than it is anything else. There's a whole bunch of treasures around here. More than I can click on. How much of a head start would the humans have with the 10% rep bonus? Probably about a 10% head start. Like, I can't. That sounds like a meme answer, I know, but I can't really be any more specific than that. They will gain reputation 10% faster than somebody else that's putting in equal amounts of effort. It's tempting though. I mean, in terms of days, rep grind isn't necessarily restricted in term. It's not necessarily time gated like that. It does mean that yes, the human rep bonus will definitely have an advantage by about 10%. In terms of days, no idea. No idea. 10% of the days, yeah. A 10% bonus is a 10% bonus. The way on the beta, the way I got Dragon Scale Expedition to 25 was exactly what you're seeing now. Just running around gathering treasures, and then turning in those treasures. Which, because it's these. Where are they? Can I find them? These things, the Dragon Isle artifacts. These you can turn in for reputation. They used to give you a lot more reputation than they do now. But this is how I leveled it to 25 initially on the beta. But it still took me probably, I don't know, probably 12 hours of just flying around picking up treasures. In the time it took me to level to 25, I could have done so many more different things. But now, realistically, that like flying around picking up treasures is, sure, every artifact you get is a little bit more reputation, but it's not as valuable as it once was to do. If you've got nothing else to do, you carry on, but where is this one? It's a scout pack. I can't see it though. Maybe it's on this side. Is there a scout pack around here? If there is, I can't see it. Maybe it's in a cave or something. I'm still yet to get a knowledge point from any of these. Which I don't know is either a good thing or a bad thing. Either it means that, because it's possible that because I do not have a crafting profession, that I as a character maybe do not qualify to get a Dragon Shard of Knowledge because I have gathering professions, and gathering professions have their own source of knowledge rather than crafting professions. This could be a thing. Which might be why I'm not finding any. The amount of people that are going to be flying these routes, though, for finding these. Oof. My intention is quite early on to do a video, or maybe even two, about farming routes for these. Because I can't imagine that there's anybody in the game that won't be looking to spend some time farming these treasures. And like I said, the fact that I've done it for like probably 20 hours on the beta so far, I've wasted far too much time trying to find these treasures on the beta. Now, it might be a bit of a different story now that they show on your minimap, but I can't be bothered to go get that lush one. Hang on. There's another one around here somewhere. I'm standing on it, apparently. Where is it? Oh, it's a dirt pile. That's why it... Okay. Let's pull you as well. Poor woolly mammoth being eaten by hyenas. I wonder if you get experience from these treasures. Is treasure hunting going to be... Ooh, that's something I'd not considered. If you get experience from these, that becomes another remarkably viable way of leveling up. Don't think you get experience. You might... There's only one way to find out. Where's my druid? Where's my herbalism mining druid? Go farm me some treasures and see if we get experience from it. That'd be a very cheeky way of leveling up, wouldn't it?
It's a shame that these gorgeous frogs are tucked away in a cave.
Where am I? Oh, I'm there. Obviously, this ult, due to it being an ult, does not have the renown with the Dragon Scale Expedition. And apparently not the frame rate either. Jesus. Can I buy some frames, please? But it should, in theory, have... The Expedition Scout Packs is an account unlock. You can see it even says it on the tooltip there now. This is an account unlock. Once you've done it once, it's unlocked. Expedition Scout Pack treasures can be found around the Dragon Isles. Buried treasures, an account unlock. The ability to find and dig through disturbed dirt mounds as long as you possess an Expedition shovel. Magic bound chests are an account lock. And that's it.
You best be prepared.
Oh, I have shovels on this dude already. Smart. Check me out. Always the genius.
close.
Okay. Let me find some treasures then. Now, they're not showing on my mini-map, which I think might be a crucial distinction to make here, is that they're not showing on my mini-map. Or are they? Oh, Disturbed Dirt. It is showing on my mini-map. What exactly is the to-do at level 70 before raiding? Profession leveling in Mythic Dungeons? Yeah, pretty much. Okay, no experience from the treasures. No experience from treasures. I think that might end up being key. No experience from treasures, but that doesn't stop us from farming them.
Is that your wallet? Or are you just glad to see me? Both, I hope.
Who be this? Copy 88 with a sub. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. There we go. Bunch of materials for that one. Bunch of quality 3 materials from overloading. Wait, there's finally beta key giveaways? Yeah, Zanzafal's given a few away later on today, I think. Blizzard doesn't love me though, so... Oh, that wasn't much of a fly, was it? There we go. I'm not going in that cave for herbs. Okay. I only really wanted to log on to this character just to double check whether we get experience from treasures, which we appear not to. Which is, let's be honest, probably a good thing. Otherwise, that's how most people would end up leveling their characters. Not really something I expect Blizzard to want. But decent amount of experience from leveling just by gathering, which, at least for my druid, will be clearly the way I will level this character up come live. Because gathering's going to be quite lucrative, I feel, for those that do it early.
Gorgeous frogs are tucked away in a cave. Let's make them famous.
Right, let's park my dude over here. Right though, boys and girls, I'm going to leave it there for today. I'm getting hungry. I'm going to go get me some food. And more importantly, I need to edit down and get that tier list up on YouTube. That's going to be my goal for this afternoon. So, I'm going to love you and leave you for today. Thank you all for joining. Hope you had fun. I hope at least if you were here to watch the tier list live, you have a little bit of a better idea of how the professions are looking. If you missed it or you caught us halfway through, don't worry. I'll chop it up, put it up on YouTube later. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Friday. I don't have any plans so far for tomorrow, but hopefully if the beta's in a bit of a more stable state, we can continue to just have a little poke about. May continue leveling this druid. I need another level 70, truth be told. This original hunter of mine on the beta is now bugged beyond belief. I need to level up another character, I think, to do some more testing, and maybe we can test some of the actual professions in a little bit more detail in a, you know, a semi-organized way. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, boys and girls. Make sure you check out the YouTube if you haven't. Jump over to the Discord and say hi. All the links to all of this sort of stuff is down below. But yeah, enjoy yourselves. Have a good day. I'll catch you all tomorrow. Peace.